A sentence is a promise. The moment you begin speaking, you promise the listener that your thought is going somewhere, but when the words disappear halfway through, that promise remains unfinished. You restart, shorten the idea, or abandon it completely, even though the full meaning is still clear inside your mind. The English sentence landing teaches you how to give every thought a destination, stay in control through the difficult middle, and reach the ending without freezing or starting again. You do not need more complicated English, you need the power to complete what you begin. Subscribe to English Mindset Academy and let us turn unfinished thoughts into clear, complete sentences. Chapter 1. Why strong beginnings turn into broken sentences. Many English learners believe that starting a sentence is the hardest part of speaking, but for you, that may not be true. You can often begin quite well. A familiar opening appears in your mind, your voice enters the conversation, and the first few words sound confident. You say, "The main reason I think this happens is..." Then the sentence suddenly becomes heavier. You know that more meaning should follow, but you cannot see the path clearly. Several possible words appear at the same time. You begin checking your grammar. You wonder whether the verb is correct. You try to remember the exact vocabulary you wanted. While your attention is busy solving all these small problems, the original thought begins to disappear. Your voice slows down. You repeat part of the sentence. You add, "you know," or "actually," to gain more time. Then you either restart from the beginning, replace the idea with something much simpler, or allow the sentence to fade without reaching its real conclusion. This experience can make you believe that your English is weak, but the true problem is usually not a lack of knowledge. The problem is that you launched the sentence before giving it a destination. A sentence can begin with words, but it can only continue with direction. Think about what happens when you enter a car and begin driving without deciding where you are going. The engine works, the road is open, you can move forward for a while. But every intersection creates confusion because you do not know which direction protects your journey. Speaking works in a similar way. Your vocabulary may be available, your grammar may be good enough, and your pronunciation may be clear, but without a destination, every new word creates another decision. This is why your opening can sound strong while your ending disappears. The beginning of a sentence is often stored in memory. You have heard and used phrases such as, "I think the main problem is," "in my experience," "one thing I have noticed is," "the reason I disagree is." These phrases are helpful because they allow you to enter a sentence quickly, but they are only doors, they are not complete journeys. The difficulty begins after you walk through the door. Once the memorized opening ends, your mind must create new language in real time. It must hold the main idea, choose vocabulary, organize grammar, listen to your own voice, watch the listener's reaction, and decide how the sentence should end. When you try to control all of these things consciously, your speaking system becomes overloaded. The sentence does not collapse because you know nothing. It collapses because you are trying to manage everything. Imagine carrying several glasses of water across a crowded room. If you focus only on reaching the other side, your body naturally adjusts. But if you examine every finger, every step, every movement of the water, and every possible mistake, walking becomes much more difficult. Excessive control destroys the smooth action you were trying to protect. The same thing happens when you speak English. You begin with meaning, but then you shift your attention toward accuracy. You stop asking, "What am I trying to say?" and begin asking, "Is every word correct?" That small change pulls your mind away from the message. Once the message is no longer at the center, the sentence loses its internal direction. This is one of the most important truths you must understand. A sentence is not a collection of perfect words. It is a vehicle carrying one main meaning. When the meaning remains clear, imperfect words can still reach the listener. When the meaning disappears, even correct words can lead nowhere. Suppose someone asks, "Why did you decide to learn English?" You may begin, "I decided to learn English because it is very important for my future, and also when I was younger, I always wanted to." At this point, several ideas may enter your mind. Better job opportunities, international communication, travel, confidence, education, personal growth. You try to include all of them in one sentence, and the structure becomes overloaded. You have not lost your English, you have lost the single message. A clearer speaker chooses one destination. "I decided to learn English because I want better opportunities in my career." That sentence lands. Now the speaker can add another complete thought. "It will also help me communicate with people from different countries." That sentence lands too. Then another. "Most importantly, I want to express myself with confidence." The idea becomes stronger because each part is completed before the next one begins. Many learners think fluency means speaking in long, impressive sentences, but real fluency is not the ability to keep a sentence alive forever. It is the ability to complete one thought and move naturally into the next. A long, unfinished sentence does not sound more advanced than 3 short, complete sentences. It only places more pressure on your mind and more work on your listener. Your listener should not have to rescue your meaning. Your job as a speaker is to carry the thought far enough that the listener can receive it. This is where the idea of sentence landing becomes powerful. Every time you begin speaking, you are taking off with a piece of meaning. Your goal is not to remain in the air as long as possible. Your goal is to bring that meaning safely down. The landing may be simple. The meeting was difficult because nobody had prepared. I enjoyed the book because the message felt honest. I became nervous because everyone was waiting for my answer. Notice that each sentence has one clear center. It begins, moves, and arrives. The sentence does not attempt to explain the entire world. It completes one job. Your speaking will change when you stop asking, "How can I make this sentence longer?" and begin asking, "What must this sentence complete?" That question gives your mind a boundary. Without a boundary, every related idea tries to enter the same sentence. With a boundary, your mind knows what belongs now and what can wait. This chapter is not asking you to simplify your intelligence. You may have deep, complex, and beautiful thoughts, but complex meaning does not require chaotic speech. Even the deepest explanation becomes clearer when it is divided into complete units. You do not need to reduce your ideas. You need to organize their arrival. Another reason sentences break is that learners become emotionally attached to the perfect word. You begin explaining something, but one specific word does not appear. Instead of continuing with a simpler expression, you stop the entire sentence and search for it. Perhaps you want to say exhausted, but the word disappears. You could say, "I was extremely tired." Perhaps you want to say disappointed, but you cannot retrieve it quickly. You could say, "I expected something better, but it did not happen." The meaning can continue, even when the exact word is missing. But many learners refuse to move until the perfect word returns. They treat vocabulary like a locked gate. If one word is unavailable, the whole thought must wait. A flexible speaker sees vocabulary differently. One missing word is not a wall, it is only a small obstacle that can be walked around. Your main responsibility is not to prove that you know a particular word. Your responsibility is to deliver the thought. When you protect the meaning, the sentence remains alive. When you protect only the vocabulary, the sentence often dies. There is also another hidden habit behind unfinished sentences: correcting too early. You say, "Yesterday I went to the market because I needed, because I was needing, because I needed to buy." The sentence becomes trapped in its own repairs. Natural correction is useful, but constant correction destroys movement. Every time you return to repair a small detail, your mind must leave the main road. After several corrections, you may forget where the sentence was going. Not every small mistake deserves an emergency. Sometimes the strongest decision is to continue. The listener may understand you perfectly, even if one tense is imperfect or one article is missing. Communication can survive small errors. It cannot survive a thought that is never completed. This does not mean grammar is unimportant. It means grammar should support the message, not prevent the message from arriving. Your first goal is completion. Accuracy can improve through practice, reflection, and repetition. But if you refuse to finish until every word is perfect, your speaking will always feel dangerous. You must learn to trust understandable English. Understandable English moves. Understandable English connects. Understandable English reaches people. Perfect English that remains trapped inside your head reaches no one. From this moment, begin noticing the exact point where your sentences usually break. Do they collapse when you try to give a reason? Do you lose direction when you add too many details? Do you freeze when one word disappears? Do you restart because of a small grammar mistake? Do you begin speaking before you know your main conclusion? This awareness matters because unfinished sentences do not all come from the same cause. You cannot repair the habit until you recognize the moment where control is lost. The next time you speak, do not judge yourself when a sentence becomes difficult. Instead, quietly return to the central question: what is the one thing I want this person to understand? That question brings the destination back into view. Perhaps your sentence began with too much complexity. Reduce it. Perhaps one word disappeared. Describe it. Perhaps you added too many ideas. Finish the first one. Perhaps you made a mistake. Continue from where you are. Do not abandon the entire journey because one part of the road became difficult. You already possess more English than your broken sentences reveal. Your knowledge is not always the problem. Your thoughts simply need stronger guidance. A confident beginning is valuable, but it is not enough. The first words open the sentence. The final meaning completes it. From today, stop celebrating only the moment your English begins to flow. Begin developing the deeper skill of staying with the thought until it arrives. Do not run away from the difficult middle. Do not replace every meaningful idea with a safer one. Do not allow one missing word to erase an entire message. Hold the direction. Protect the meaning. Complete one thought before beginning another. Your English does not need to become perfect before your sentences can land. It needs a destination and the courage to keep moving toward it. Chapter 2. Choose the landing before you begin. Most unfinished sentences do not fail in the middle. They fail before the first word is spoken. The sentence may sound confident at the beginning, but underneath that confident opening, your mind has not made one important decision. Where is this thought going? You know the topic. You may even know several useful words. But knowing the topic is not the same as knowing the destination. Someone asks, "What did you think about the movie?" You begin, "I think the movie was very interesting because the story was." Then several possible directions appear. The acting was strong. The ending was surprising. The main character was believable. Some scenes were too slow. The message was meaningful. The music was beautiful. Your mind tries to hold all of these ideas at once. You have not chosen which one the sentence should deliver, so every new possibility pulls you in a different direction. The problem is not that you have nothing to say. The problem is that you have too much to say without choosing what must come first. A sentence becomes easier the moment it receives a destination. Before you begin, you do not need to plan every word. You do not need to build the complete sentence silently inside your head. You only need to know the final meaning you want the listener to receive. That final meaning is your landing. Suppose your real message is, "The movie was interesting because the ending surprised me." Now the sentence has somewhere to go. You can say, "I thought the movie was interesting because I did not expect the ending." The grammar may not be advanced, the vocabulary may not be impressive, but the thought is complete because the speaker knew the destination before beginning. This is the first powerful habit of sentence landing. Decide the meaning before choosing the language. Many learners do the opposite. They choose a familiar opening first and hope that the meaning will appear later. They begin with, "In my opinion, the thing is, basically, what I want to say is." These expressions can give you a useful entrance, but they cannot choose the destination for you. If the meaning is still unclear, the opening only delays the confusion. You may speak for several seconds without actually moving closer to a conclusion. This is why some learners use many words but still feel that they have said nothing. They are producing language without delivering a message. Before you speak, pause for one quiet second and ask, "What must this person understand when I finish?" This question is not meant to create pressure. It is meant to remove pressure. When the destination is clear, you no longer have to consider every possible idea. Your mind can ignore anything that does not help the sentence arrive. Imagine that someone asks, "Why do you want to improve your English?" Many ideas may be true. You want a better job. You want to travel. You want to speak confidently. You want to understand films. You want to communicate online. You want to study abroad. If you try to carry all of these ideas inside one sentence, the sentence may become too heavy. Instead, choose one landing. I want to improve my English because it will give me better career opportunities. Finish that thought. Then choose another destination. I also want to communicate confidently with people from other countries. Finish that one too. You are not deleting your other ideas. You are giving each idea its own safe arrival. A clear speaker does not say everything at once. A clear speaker decides what must land first. This skill is especially important because spoken English happens in real time. While writing, you can stop, erase, rearrange, and begin again. During conversation, your words leave your mouth immediately. You cannot pull them back and rebuild them in a better order. That is why a tiny moment of direction before speaking can save many seconds of confusion later. 1 second of planning is not hesitation, it is control. Some learners are afraid to pause because they think fluent speakers answer immediately. They believe that even a short silence will make them look weak, so they begin speaking before the thought is ready. But a rushed beginning often creates a longer and more uncomfortable pause in the middle. A calm speaker may take 1 second before answering, but once the sentence begins, it moves with purpose. A nervous speaker may answer instantly, then spend 10 seconds searching for the direction. Which one sounds more confident? Real confidence is not always fast. Real confidence knows where it is going. You can develop this habit by learning to recognize the purpose of your sentence. Most spoken sentences are doing one simple job. You may be giving an opinion. You may be explaining a reason. You may be describing an experience. You may be comparing two things. You may be making a request. You may be giving an example. You may be reaching a conclusion. When you know the job, the landing becomes easier to see. Suppose someone asks, "Do you enjoy working from home?" If the job is to give an opinion, your destination may be, "Yes, I enjoy it." If the job is to explain a reason, your destination may be, "I enjoy it because I can concentrate better." If the job is to compare, your destination may be, "I enjoy it more than working in an office because it is quieter." The same topic can produce different sentences, but each sentence becomes stable when its purpose is clear. You do not need to carry the entire conversation inside one answer. Complete the job of the current sentence. Then allow the next sentence to do the next job. This is how fluent explanations are built. They do not emerge as one enormous, perfect structure. They grow through a series of smaller thoughts that each know where they are going. Consider this difficult version. I prefer studying in the morning because at night I am usually tired, and sometimes there are many distractions, although in the morning I also have some problems because I need to wake up early. But I think the speaker is trying to compare morning and night, explain tiredness, discuss distractions, introduce a disadvantage, and form a conclusion, all before landing the first idea. Now listen to the same meaning divided into clear destinations. I prefer studying in the morning because my mind feels fresher. At night, I am usually tired and easily distracted. Waking up early is sometimes difficult, but morning study still works better for me. Nothing important was lost. In fact, the meaning became stronger because every sentence had one destination. This teaches us another important rule. Do not begin with the whole subject. Begin with one message about the subject. English learning is a subject. I need English for my career is a message. My hometown is a subject. My hometown is peaceful but lacks job opportunities is a message. Technology is a subject. Technology saves time, but it can also reduce concentration is a message. A subject opens many roads. A message chooses one. When learners begin with only a subject, their minds keep generating new possibilities. The sentence expands without control. When they begin with a message, each word can be judged by one simple question. Does this help me reach the landing? If yes, keep it. If no, save it for the next sentence. You can imagine the final meaning as a small light at the end of the sentence. You do not need to see every step clearly, but you must keep moving toward that light. Perhaps you do not know the perfect adjective. Use a simpler one. Perhaps you forget a grammar form. Choose an easier structure. Perhaps a new idea appears. Hold it for later. The landing gives you permission to simplify because you know what must survive. The sentence may change shape, but its destination remains the same. Suppose you want to say, "The experience taught me to become more independent." You begin, "When I moved to another city, it was difficult because..." Then the word independent disappears. A learner without a clear landing may freeze because the exact word is missing, but you know the meaning you want to deliver. You can continue. "When I moved to another city, it was difficult because I had to do everything by myself. That experience taught me how to depend less on other people." The wording changed, but the sentence still reached the destination. This is why meaning must lead and vocabulary must follow. When vocabulary leads, one missing word can destroy the sentence. When meaning leads, the mind can search for another road. Choosing a landing also protects you from one of the most common speaking mistakes, changing the message halfway through. You begin by saying that something was helpful, but then you remember a negative detail. You begin explaining the negative detail, forget the original point, and end with a conclusion that does not match your opening. For example, "The course was very helpful because the teacher explained everything clearly, but sometimes the lessons were long, and I was tired after work, so I could not always complete the homework." And where is the sentence going now? Was the course helpful? Was it too long? Was the learner too tired? Was the homework difficult? All of these ideas may be valid, but the first sentence needs one clear conclusion. A stronger version would be, "The course was helpful because the teacher explained everything clearly." However, some lessons were difficult to finish after a long day at work. The positive idea lands first. The difficulty lands second. The listener does not have to guess which thought is being completed. This does not make your English basic, it makes your English controlled. Many learners chase advanced language before developing clear direction. They try to use long connectors, complicated grammar, and impressive vocabulary, but the listener still struggles to follow the meaning. Clarity is not the enemy of advanced English, clarity is the foundation of it. You cannot build powerful explanations on unfinished thoughts. You cannot tell engaging stories if each sentence changes direction before arriving. You cannot sound confident while your listener is waiting for you to reveal what your sentence was meant to say. First, learn to land simple messages. Then you can carry richer detail, deeper emotion, and more complex ideas. A pilot does not prove skill by keeping the aircraft in the sky forever. Skill is shown through control, direction, and a safe landing. Your sentence is the same. Its value is not measured by how long it remains open. Its value is measured by whether the meaning arrives. To build this habit, use a simple exercise whenever you practice speaking. Choose a question such as, "What do you enjoy about your job?" Before answering, do not create the full sentence. Choose only the landing. "I enjoy solving problems." Then speak toward it. "What I enjoy most about my job is solving problems because every day gives me a different challenge." Now choose a second landing. "My coworkers are supportive." Then speak, "I also enjoy working with my team because my coworkers are helpful and supportive." Each answer becomes easier because the meaning has been chosen first. Try the same process with everyday questions. "What did you do yesterday?" Landing, "I visited my brother." "What are you worried about?" Landing, "I am worried about the interview." "Why did you change your routine?" Landing, "My old routine was making me tired." "What is your biggest goal?" Landing, "I want to speak English confidently at work." Do not memorize the complete wording. Practice choosing the destination. The words should remain flexible. The meaning should remain stable. As you improve, you can make the landing more detailed. Instead of, "The meeting was difficult," choose, "The meeting was difficult because nobody agreed on the main decision." Instead of, "I liked the book," choose, "I liked the book because it changed the way I think about discipline." Instead of, "I want to travel," choose, "I want to travel because experiencing other cultures will make me more open-minded." The clearer the landing, the easier it becomes to choose what belongs inside the sentence. There will still be moments when you begin speaking and realize that your direction is unclear. Do not panic. You can create a landing while you are already speaking. Slow down and ask yourself, "What is my real point?" Then choose the simplest ending available. You may say, "What I really mean is," "The main reason is," "The important point is." To put it simply, these phrases are useful when they lead to a clear conclusion. They should not become empty delays. Use them as turning points that bring the sentence back toward its destination. For example, "I think there are many different reasons, and it depends on the situation, but the main reason is that people are afraid of making mistakes." The phrase, "The main reason is," gives the sentence a landing. Or, "The experience was difficult in many ways, but what I really learned was how to trust myself." The phrase, "What I really learned was," reveals the destination. These structures help you recover direction without restarting from the beginning. The deeper goal is to make this process automatic. At first, you may need to consciously pause and choose the message. With practice, your mind will begin doing it quickly. You will feel the destination before the sentence starts. You will know which details belong and which ones should wait. Speaking will begin to feel less like entering a dark road and more like following a path you can already see. Remember, you are not required to know every word before you begin. You are required to know what the words are trying to deliver. The language can change. The sentence can become shorter, the grammar can remain simple, but the message must arrive. From today, do not throw words into the air and hope they form a complete thought. Give the thought a destination. Do not begin with 5 possible endings. Choose one. Do not carry every idea at the same time. Decide what must land first. Before your next sentence leaves your mouth, take one quiet moment and ask, "When I finish speaking, what do I want this person to understand?" Hold that answer. Begin calmly. Move toward it. And do not leave the sentence until the meaning has arrived. Chapter 3. Build a simple sentence path. A clear destination gives your sentence direction, but direction alone is not enough. You may know exactly what you want to say and still lose control while trying to reach it. This happens because the thought inside your mind is often larger, faster, and more complicated than the sentence your mouth can comfortably produce in real time. Your mind does not think in neat grammatical lines. It can hold an opinion, a memory, a feeling, a reason, an example, and a conclusion almost simultaneously. In 1 second, you may understand the complete idea, but when you speak, that complete idea must leave your mouth one word at a time. This is where many learners become trapped. They try to release the whole thought in one movement. They begin speaking before dividing the idea into manageable parts, and then they expect the sentence to organize itself while it is already coming out. At first, the sentence moves well because the main idea is still clear. But then the speaker tries to add a reason, explain a detail, correct a small mistake, introduce an example, and protect the grammar at the same time. The sentence becomes crowded. The direction becomes harder to see. The ending moves farther away. Eventually, the speaker forgets what the original sentence was trying to complete. This chapter will teach you how to create a simple path that carries your meaning from the first word to the final point. You will learn how to divide one large thought into smaller speaking stages, how to recognize when a sentence is becoming overloaded, and how to guide your listener without forcing your mind to carry everything at once. A sentence path does not mean memorizing every word before you speak. It means giving your thought a simple internal structure. The most useful structure is the main idea, the support, and the landing. The main idea tells the listener what you are talking about. The support explains, proves, or develops that idea. The landing closes the thought and makes the meaning complete. Consider this sentence: I enjoy working from home because I can concentrate more easily, and this helps me finish important tasks without constant interruptions. The main idea is, I enjoy working from home. The support is, because I can concentrate more easily. The landing is, this helps me finish important tasks without constant interruptions. The sentence has movement. It does not remain trapped inside the opening. Each part performs a different job, and every part brings the listener closer to the conclusion. Now consider a less controlled version. I enjoy working from home because it is quiet, and sometimes in the office people are talking, and there are meetings, and I have many things to do. Although working from home can also be difficult because this sentence has not chosen a stable path. It begins with the benefit of working from home, then moves to office noise, then meetings, then workload, then a disadvantage. The speaker keeps opening new doors without closing the original one. The sentence is not too difficult because the English is advanced. It is difficult because the direction keeps changing. A sentence path protects you from this problem by giving each part a clear responsibility. The first part introduces one idea. The second part supports that idea. The final part completes it. This structure may sound simple, but simplicity is exactly what makes it powerful. In real conversation, your mind needs a structure that can survive pressure. A complicated speaking formula may look impressive on paper, but if you cannot use it while someone is waiting for your answer, it will not help you. The sentence path must be simple enough to feel, not merely remember. Let us begin with the first stage, the main idea. The main idea is not the whole explanation. It is the central statement that the rest of the sentence will support. For example, I prefer studying alone. My first job taught me patience. The meeting was unsuccessful. Learning English has changed my confidence. The biggest problem is poor communication. Each of these statements gives the sentence a center. The listener immediately knows what the thought is about, and the speaker knows what must be protected. Many learners weaken their sentence path because they hide the main idea behind a long beginning. They say, there are many things that I could say about this, and it is a little difficult to explain because every situation is different. But personally, I think, the sentence uses many words, but the listener still does not know the point. Ogradia stavanpolkinging, aducia. I think the biggest problem is a lack of preparation. Now the path is visible. The listener knows what the speaker believes, and the next part can explain why. A strong sentence does not always require a dramatic opening. It requires an identifiable center. When the main idea is weak or hidden, the supporting details begin to float without direction. The listener hears information but does not know why it matters. The speaker also becomes more likely to get lost because there is no clear message to return to. Think of the main idea as the central rail of a train track. Every detail must remain connected to it. If a detail does not support the central idea, it probably belongs in another sentence. Suppose your main idea is, my first job taught me patience. A useful supporting detail might be, I had to deal with customers who were often frustrated. This supports the main idea because difficult customers explain why patience was necessary. Another useful detail might be, I learned to listen before reacting. This also supports the message because it shows what patience looked like in practice. But if you suddenly begin describing the office building, the salary, the weather, or your journey to work, the sentence begins leaving the path unless those details directly help the message. The problem is not that those details are untrue. The problem is that they belong to a different destination. Good speaking requires not only knowing what to say, but also knowing what to leave for later. This is difficult for many learners because they are afraid that a shorter answer will sound weak. They believe that adding more detail will make them appear fluent. But detail without direction does not create fluency, it creates weight. A sentence becomes powerful when every part contributes to one complete meaning. The next stage of the sentence path is support. Support answers one of the listener's natural questions. Why? How? When? What happened? What does that mean? Can you give an example? The support gives the main idea enough substance to feel complete. For example, main idea, the course was useful. Support, it gave me a clear routine for daily practice. Main idea, I felt nervous during the interview. Support, the questions were more difficult than I expected. Main idea, my English improved when I stopped translating. Support, I started connecting words directly with ideas and situations. Support does not need to be long, it only needs to move the sentence forward. Many unfinished sentences happen because the speaker adds support without deciding what kind of support is needed. They begin collecting every related detail, hoping that one of them will complete the thought. For example, the course was useful because the teacher was good, and there were many lessons, and the videos were interesting, and I studied every day, and some lessons were long. The speaker is listing information, but the sentence has no clear priority. A more controlled version chooses one strong support. The course was useful because it gave me a clear daily practice system. Then the speaker can add a second sentence. The teacher also explained difficult ideas in a simple way. Each sentence has one purpose. Each idea lands. You do not need to prove everything in one breath. The final stage is the landing. The landing is where the sentence delivers its result. It may state the consequence, complete the opinion, reveal the lesson, or bring the listener back to the main point. For example, I began waking up earlier because my old routine made me feel rushed, and now I start the day with much more control. The landing is, now I start the day with much more control. It completes the reason for changing the routine. Another example, I used to avoid speaking because I was afraid of mistakes, but regular practice taught me that communication matters more than perfection. The landing is, communication matters more than perfection. It gives the sentence a conclusion and a lesson. A sentence without a landing may contain good vocabulary and correct grammar, but it can still feel incomplete. Listen to this. I started learning English when I was younger because my brother used to watch English films, and then I became interested in... The listener is waiting. Interested in what? What happened next? Why is the speaker telling this story? Now add a landing. I started learning English when I was younger because my brother used to watch English films, and that early exposure made the language feel exciting to me. The thought arrives. The listener receives the meaning. The sentence path also helps you understand an important difference between a long sentence and an overloaded sentence. A long sentence can still be clear when every part follows the same direction. For example, I decided to change jobs because my previous role offered no opportunity for growth, and after several months of thinking carefully, I realized that staying there would slowly damage my motivation. This sentence is long, but it is controlled. The speaker begins with the decision, explains the reason, adds a time element, and lands on the deeper consequence. Every part belongs to the same journey. An overloaded sentence is different. I decided to change jobs because there was no growth, and my manager was difficult. Although some coworkers were friendly, and I had been there for 2 years, and the office was far from my house, but the salary was. The sentence has too many competing directions. It is trying to explain the lack of growth, the manager, the coworkers, the length of employment, the distance, and the salary before completing one point. The issue is not sentence length. The issue is the number of unfinished jobs inside the sentence. A useful rule is, one sentence should complete one central movement. That movement may contain several parts, but all parts must belong to the same direction. When you are giving an opinion, the path may be opinion, reason, result. I believe daily speaking practice is essential because passive knowledge disappears under pressure, so learners need regular experience producing English aloud. When you are describing an experience, the path may be situation, event, lesson. During my first presentation, I forgot several important points, but the experience taught me how valuable preparation and repetition are. When you are explaining a problem, the path may be problem, cause, effect. Many learners freeze during conversations because they try to create perfect sentences, and that pressure slows down their natural response. When you are giving advice, the path may be action, reason, benefit. Practice finishing short sentences before attempting long answers, because completion builds the control you need for more advanced speaking. These are not rigid formulas, they are dependable roads. They reduce the number of decisions your mind must make while speaking. Instead of asking, "What can I possibly say next?" your mind asks a smaller question. Have I given the reason? Have I explained the effect? Have I completed the lesson? This makes the sentence easier to manage. Now let us examine what happens when your thoughts are emotionally important. You may be able to complete ordinary sentences about food, work, or daily routines. But when the topic involves disappointment, ambition, fear, relationships, failure, or personal dreams, the sentence becomes more difficult. This is because emotional thoughts often arrive as a large mixture of meaning. You do not feel one clean sentence, you feel many connected things at once. Suppose someone asks why you left a friendship. Inside your mind, you may feel hurt, betrayal, relief, regret, anger, and disappointment. If you try to express all of these emotions immediately, the sentence may collapse. You might say, "I stopped talking to that person because for a long time there were many things, and I always tried to understand. But then something happened, and it was not only that situation." The thought is real, but the path is missing. A clearer approach would be, "I ended the friendship because the trust between us had slowly disappeared." That is the main idea, then support it. "I had forgiven several problems, but the same behavior continued." Then land the meaning. "Eventually, I realized that protecting my peace was more important than preserving an unhealthy connection." The thought remains deep, the feeling remains honest, but the message becomes easier to carry because it has been divided into stages. Simple structure does not make your ideas shallow. It gives deep ideas a form the listener can receive. The same principle applies when you explain something complex. Imagine that you are asked, "Why is learning English difficult for many adults?" Your mind may generate dozens of possible reasons: limited time, fear of mistakes, translation habits, poor listening practice, lack of confidence, ineffective teaching, and insufficient speaking opportunities. You do not need to force all of this into one sentence. Choose a path. Main idea: learning English is difficult for many adults because they understand more than they can produce. Support: they often spend years reading and memorizing but receive very little real speaking practice. Landing: as a result, their knowledge remains passive when a conversation begins. Now the explanation is complete. You can build the next sentence around another reason. Fear of making mistakes creates a second problem because learners begin monitoring every word instead of communicating naturally. Another thought lands, then another. Limited daily exposure also slows progress because the language never becomes a regular part of their lives. A complex answer is not one giant sentence. It is a chain of complete sentences arranged in a logical order. This is how you speak for a longer time without losing control. You do not hold the entire explanation in your mind. You complete one section, release it, and then move to the next. Each completed sentence reduces mental pressure. Each unfinished sentence increases it. Imagine holding several open applications on a slow computer. Each one uses attention and memory. When too many remain open, the system becomes slower. An unfinished thought behaves in a similar way. Your mind must keep remembering where it began, what it has already said, what still needs to be explained, and how the grammar should finally close. The longer the thought remains unfinished, the heavier it becomes. Landing one sentence allows your mind to release that structure and prepare for the next. This is why clear speakers often sound calm. They are not carrying 10 unfinished thoughts at the same time. They are completing them one by one. You can build this ability through a practice called the 3-part response. Choose a simple question. For example, what is one habit you want to change? First, state the main idea. I want to stop using my phone late at night. Second, add support. It keeps my mind active and makes it harder to sleep. Third, land the sentence. Changing this habit would help me wake up with more energy. Now connect the three parts naturally. I want to stop using my phone late at night because it keeps my mind active and makes it harder to sleep, and changing this habit would help me wake up with more energy. You do not need to use this as one long sentence every time. You may also divide it. I want to stop using my phone late at night. It keeps my mind active and makes it harder to sleep. Changing this habit would help me wake up with more energy. Both versions are successful because the path remains visible. The goal is not always to speak longer. The goal is to stay connected to the meaning. Try another question. What makes a good leader? Main idea. A good leader makes people feel respected. Support. They listen carefully instead of using authority to silence others. Landing. This creates trust and encourages people to give their best effort. Connected response. A good leader makes people feel respected by listening carefully instead of using authority to silence others, and this creates the trust people need to give their best effort. This answer feels strong because it moves through one logical path. Now consider, why do you want to become fluent in English? Main idea. I want to express my real personality in English. Support. At the moment, my limited speaking ability makes me sound quieter and less confident than I truly am. Landing. Fluency would allow other people to meet the complete version of me. This sentence carries more emotion, but the path remains simple. I want to express my real personality in English because my current speaking ability makes me sound quieter and less confident than I truly am, and fluency would allow other people to meet the complete version of me. That is a sentence with direction, support, and impact. As you practice, do not always begin with easy subjects. Speak about ideas that matter to you. Explain a decision you regret. Describe something you have learned. Discuss a belief that has changed. Talk about a challenge you are trying to overcome. The more meaningful the topic, the more important the sentence path becomes. You may also discover that your sentences break at a particular stage. Perhaps you can state the main idea but cannot explain why. Perhaps you give many reasons but cannot create a conclusion. Perhaps you reach the conclusion too quickly and leave the listener without enough detail. Notice your weak stage. A speaker who struggles with support often gives answers like, I liked the book because it was good. The job was difficult because it was hard. I want to travel because I like traveling. These sentences are complete, but the support adds almost no meaning. To strengthen them, ask, what exactly made it good? What specifically made it difficult? What do I hope to experience through travel? Then the answer becomes, I liked the book because it explained discipline in a practical and honest way. The job was difficult because I had to make important decisions with very little guidance. I want to travel because experiencing different cultures would challenge the way I see the world. The sentence path is not only helping you finish, it is helping you develop the thought. A speaker who struggles with the landing may give several details but never explain their importance. For example, I studied English in school for many years, and I completed grammar exercises, learned vocabulary lists, and passed several exams. The listener may wonder, what is the point? Add the landing. But when I entered a real conversation, I discovered that I had never developed the ability to respond naturally. Now the details have a purpose. Or, my parents worked long hours, saved money carefully, and gave me opportunities they never had. Add the landing. Their sacrifices taught me that love is often expressed through responsibility rather than words. The ending transforms information into meaning. A strong landing does not merely stop the sentence, it reveals why the sentence mattered. This is especially valuable for storytelling. Many learners tell stories as a list of events. First we went there, then we ate food, then we met someone, then we came back. The grammar may be correct, but the story feels flat because the events do not build toward a message. A stronger path gives the story a center. We planned a quiet day at the beach, but the weather changed suddenly and forced us to take shelter in a small cafe. That unexpected change became the best part of the day because we spent hours talking without any distractions. The path is clear. Plan, unexpected event, meaningful result. The story lands on something more than chronology. You can practice this by asking yourself after every story, what changed? What did I realize? Why do I still remember this? What was the final result? Your answer becomes the landing. Another powerful skill is learning when to end the sentence. Some learners reach the destination and then continue speaking because silence makes them uncomfortable. They say, I chose this university because it has a strong engineering program which will help me build the career I want, and yes, that is why, and also there are other things. The sentence had already landed. continuing weakened it. A confident speaker recognizes when the message is complete and allows the sentence to end. Silence after a clear sentence is not failure. It gives the listener time to receive the meaning. Do not keep the sentence alive after it has completed its job. This habit requires trust. You must trust that one complete message is enough. You do not always need to explain everything, defend everything, or fill every second. Say the thought, support it, land it, then breathe. The next idea can begin as a new sentence. You should also be careful with connectors. Words such as because, although, while, however, which, but, and so are useful, but every connector opens another grammatical responsibility. When you say because, the listener expects a reason. When you say although, the listener expects a contrast. When you say if, the listener expects a condition and a result. When you say which, the sentence often needs further explanation. Many learners open too many of these structures before closing the first one. For example, I wanted to attend the event because my friend invited me, although I was tired, which was because I had worked late, but when I arrived. The sentence is carrying too many open connections. A safer version would be, my friend invited me to the event, so I decided to attend. I was tired because I had worked late, but I was still glad I went. The meaning becomes easier because each connector completes one clear relationship. Use connectors to guide the path, not to lengthen the sentence. A connector should make the relationship between ideas clearer. It should not become an excuse to avoid ending. When your sentence begins feeling unstable, you can use a simple rescue method. Return, reduce, and land. Return to the main idea. Reduce the amount of information. Land with the simplest clear ending. Suppose you begin, I think social media can be helpful because there are many opportunities and people can learn things, but sometimes they spend too much time. And also, return. What is the central point? Perhaps it is, social media is useful when people control how they use it. Reduce. Remove the extra examples. Land. Social media offers valuable information, but it becomes harmful when it controls our attention instead of serving our goals. The sentence has recovered. Or suppose you begin, my hometown is a good place because the people are friendly and there are mountains, and when I was a child, I used to. Return. What do you want the listener to understand? Perhaps, my hometown feels peaceful and emotionally important to me. Reduce and land. My hometown is peaceful because the people are friendly and nature is always close, but what makes it truly special is the connection I have with my childhood. You did not restart. You reorganized the path. This is an important form of fluency. Fluent speaking is not always producing a perfect path immediately. Sometimes it is noticing that the path is weakening and guiding the thought back before it disappears. The more you practice this, the earlier you will recognize overload. You will feel when too many ideas are entering. You will notice when a connector has opened a structure you cannot comfortably finish. You will sense when the sentence has already landed. That awareness gives you control. Here is a daily practice you can use. Choose one topic and speak for 3 minutes, but do not try to create one long explanation. Build the response through complete sentence paths. For every sentence, quietly identify, what is my main idea? What support does it need? Where will it land? For example, the topic is, why is consistency important? First path. Consistency is important because small actions become powerful when they are repeated, and this allows progress to continue even when motivation disappears. Second path. Many people fail because they depend on strong feelings, but feelings change from day to day. Third path. A simple routine protects the goal by making action normal rather than emotional. Fourth path. The greatest benefit of consistency is that it builds trust in yourself. Notice how the larger explanation grows through complete units. You are not forcing yourself to remember a long speech. You are building one stable path after another. Later, listen to your recording. Do not judge your accent. Do not count every grammar mistake. Ask different questions. Did each sentence have one center? Did the support match the main idea? Did the sentence reach a clear ending? Where did I begin adding unnecessary information? Which sentence became too heavy? Could I divide that sentence into 2? This kind of review develops speaking intelligence. You begin understanding not only whether your English is correct, but whether your thought is moving clearly. That is the deeper purpose of this chapter. You are not simply learning a formula. You are teaching your mind how to guide language. Before, your thoughts may have rushed toward your mouth as one large wave. Now you are learning to give that wave a shape. The main idea creates the direction. The support creates the movement. The landing creates completion. These three parts do not need to sound mechanical. With practice, they will become natural. You will stop consciously naming them, but you will feel when one is missing. You will feel when a statement needs a reason. You will feel when an explanation needs a result. You will feel when the sentence has reached its destination and should end. This feeling is the beginning of real speaking control. From today, stop asking your mouth to carry an entire complicated thought without a path. Do not release every detail at once. Do not confuse length with strength. Do not open 5 ideas and finish none of them. Give the sentence one main job. Support that job with the information it truly needs. Then guide the meaning toward a clear ending. Your listener does not need to enter your mind and organize the thought for you. You must build the road. You must place the signs. You must show where the sentence is going. When the path is simple, your mind becomes calmer. When your mind becomes calmer, your words become easier to choose. When your words follow one direction, the sentence becomes easier to finish. And when your sentence finishes clearly, your English begins to sound not only more fluent, but more thoughtful, more confident, and more complete. Chapter 4. Protect the main thought while searching for words. The middle of a sentence is where many English learners lose control. The beginning may be clear, you know the topic, you have chosen the destination, and the first few words come naturally. But then one important word disappears. Your mind reaches for it, finds nothing, and suddenly the entire sentence begins to shake. You stop hearing the meaning. You stop seeing the destination. You stop guiding the thought. All of your attention becomes trapped around one missing word. This is one of the most frustrating experiences in spoken English because the word often returns after the conversation has ended. 10 minutes later, while walking away or sitting alone, it suddenly appears. You remember it perfectly and think, why could I not remember that word when I needed it? The answer is not always that you did not know the word well enough. Often, the pressure of speaking changed the way your mind searched for it. Instead of protecting the complete message, you treated one vocabulary item as if it were the only possible road forward. The word became more important than the thought. Once that happens, the sentence usually stops. This chapter will teach you a different way to speak. You will learn how to keep the main meaning alive, even when vocabulary becomes uncertain. You will discover how to replace missing words, describe what you cannot name, simplify a difficult structure, and continue without abandoning the sentence. This is not a secondary skill, it is one of the central abilities behind real fluency. A fluent speaker is not someone who remembers every perfect word immediately. A fluent speaker is someone who can continue communicating when the perfect word does not appear. The difference is enormous. A learner may know thousands of words but freeze whenever one of them is unavailable. Another learner may know fewer words but speak more effectively because they can rearrange the message and find another way to express it. The first learner has more stored vocabulary. The second learner has more speaking flexibility. In real conversation, flexibility often matters more. The first principle of this chapter is simple. The word is not the message. A word is only one tool for carrying the message. Suppose you want to say, my manager was very considerate, but the word considerate disappears. If you believe that the exact word is necessary, the sentence may become, my manager was very, I do not know the word. The thought is now trapped, but the meaning of considerate is still available inside you. You know what kind of person your manager was. You can say, my manager always thought about how other people were feeling, or, my manager was careful not to create unnecessary pressure for the team. Or, my manager understood when someone was having a difficult day. The word disappeared, but the meaning survived. That is the skill you must build. You are not trying to rescue one word. You are trying to rescue the sentence. This requires a change in loyalty. Many learners are loyal to vocabulary. They feel that if they cannot produce the exact word they originally planned, the sentence has failed. But a strong speaker is loyal to meaning. The wording may change, the structure may become simpler, the sentence may become longer than expected, but the central message must continue moving. Imagine that you are carrying an important package to someone. The road you plan to use is suddenly closed. Would you stand in front of the barrier forever because that was the original road? No. You would look for another street. The new route might be longer or less direct, but the package would still arrive. A missing word is a closed road. It is not the end of the journey. The problem is that many learners have practiced vocabulary as isolated labels. They study a word, memorize a translation, and repeat a definition. This may help recognition, but spoken communication demands something more. You must know the meaning well enough to approach it from several directions. For example, you may know that generous means a person who gives freely, but can you explain it without using the word? A person who is willing to share what they have. Someone who helps others without being selfish. A person who gives time, money, or support easily. When you can explain the meaning, you no longer depend completely on the label. The label is useful, the meaning is essential. The same is true for objects. Suppose you forget the word umbrella. You can say, the thing you carry when it is raining. Suppose you forget charger. You can say, the device I use to give power to my phone. Suppose you forget receipt. You can say, the small paper the shop gives you after you pay. These descriptions may not sound elegant, but they keep the conversation alive. More importantly, they teach your mind that one missing word does not have the authority to stop you. This is how confidence grows, not through the promise that you will never forget a word, but through the knowledge that forgetting one will not destroy you. Many learners believe fluent speakers never experience word gaps. That is not true. Even native speakers forget words, replace them, describe them, or use expressions such as, it is the thing you use for, it is similar to, it is the place where, it is a person who. I cannot remember the exact word, but. The difference is that they do not always interpret the gap as a crisis. They continue communicating. Your reaction to the missing word often causes more damage than the missing word itself. The gap may last 1 second, but panic can turn it into 10 seconds of silence. You begin judging yourself. You imagine that the listener is noticing every mistake. You search harder, which creates more pressure. The pressure makes retrieval even more difficult, and the word moves farther away. This creates a dangerous cycle. A word disappears. You become anxious. Anxiety narrows your attention. Narrow attention makes retrieval harder. The sentence collapses. To break this cycle, you must protect the central thought before you search for vocabulary. Ask yourself, what am I trying to make the listener understand? Suppose you are describing a difficult coworker. You want to say, he was unreliable. The word unreliable disappears. Return to the central thought. What do you want the listener to understand? You want them to understand that this person could not be trusted to do what he promised. Now you can say, he often promised to complete the work, but he did not do it on time. The thought has landed. The missing word no longer matters. This shows why meaning-first speaking is so powerful. When you know the destination, you can change the road without changing the message. When the destination is unclear, one missing word can erase everything because you do not know what else to protect. You must learn to separate two different questions. What exact word did I plan to use? What meaning must reach the listener? The first question may remain unanswered. The second question must guide your speaking. Let us examine 4 powerful ways to continue when a word disappears. The first method is simplification. Simplification means replacing a difficult word with an easier word or expression. Instead of exhausted, say very tired. Instead of furious, say extremely angry. Instead of purchase, say buy. Instead of approximately, say about. Instead of postpone, say move it to a later time. Some learners resist simplification because they believe easy language will make them sound less intelligent. But during real conversation, a simple word delivered confidently is stronger than an advanced word that never arrives. Communication rewards clarity. The listener cannot admire vocabulary that remains trapped inside your head. You may know the word inconvenient, but if it disappears, say, it created a problem for me. You may know hesitant, but if it disappears, say, I was not sure whether I should do it. You may know overwhelmed, but if it disappears, say, there were too many things happening, and I could not manage them calmly. The message becomes longer, but it remains alive. Over time, the advanced word may become easier to retrieve. But until then, your sentence must not be sacrificed to it. The second method is description. Description means explaining the qualities, function, appearance, or purpose of the missing word. Suppose you forget thermometer. You can say, the tool we use to measure body temperature. Suppose you forget apron. You can say, the cloth people wear over their clothes while cooking. Suppose you forget intersection. You can say, the place where 2 roads meet. Suppose you forget deadline. You can say, the final date when the work must be completed. Description is not only an emergency method, it is excellent speaking practice because it strengthens the connection between language and meaning. When you describe a word, you are no longer depending on translation. You are building the concept directly in English. This develops mental flexibility. You begin to understand that ideas can be approached from different angles. A deadline is not only one vocabulary item, it is connected to time, work, responsibility, completion, and consequence. The deeper these connections become, the easier it is to speak around a temporary gap. The third method is comparison. Comparison means connecting the missing word to something similar or opposite. Suppose you forget balcony. You can say, it is like a small outdoor area connected to an apartment. Suppose you forget stubborn. You can say, it means someone who refuses to change their mind. Suppose you forget humid. You can say, the air feels wet and heavy, not dry. Suppose you forget temporary. You can say, it is the opposite of permanent. It will not last forever. Comparison gives the listener a bridge. You may not produce the label, but you create enough meaning for communication to continue. The fourth method is example. Sometimes a word is difficult to explain directly, but an example makes the meaning clear. Suppose you forget responsible. You can say, for example, this is a person who completes their work on time and accepts the results of their decisions. Suppose you forget distracted. You can say, for example, you are trying to study, but every message and sound takes your attention away. Suppose you forget supportive. You can say, for example, when you make a mistake, this person helps you instead of laughing at you. Examples make abstract ideas visible. They turn uncertain vocabulary into understandable situations. These methods can be combined. Imagine that you forget the word efficient. You can simplify. It works well. You can describe. It produces a good result without wasting much time or energy. You can compare. It is faster and more organized than the usual method. You can give an example. For example, this machine finishes in 10 minutes what the old machine needed an hour to do. You do not need to use all four methods in conversation. One is often enough. The purpose is to give your mind options. Fluency grows when your mind sees more than one road. Now let us look at a deeper problem. Sometimes you remember the vocabulary, but the sentence structure becomes too difficult to complete. You may begin with an advanced structure such as, although I had originally intended to. Then you realize that you are not sure how to finish it correctly. Or you begin, one of the reasons why people who have been. The sentence becomes grammatically heavy before the main idea has landed. At this point, the solution is not always to search harder for the correct grammar. The solution may be to reduce the structure. Suppose you begin, although I had originally intended to continue working there, due to the fact that you feel the sentence becoming unstable. You can restart the structure without restarting the whole thought. I planned to continue working there, but the situation changed, so I decided to leave. The message survives because you released the complicated form. This is an important lesson. You may change the sentence structure while keeping the thought alive. Some learners believe they must remain inside the grammar they first selected. Once they begin with although, they feel forced to build a long contrast. Once they begin with a relative clause, they feel trapped inside it. Once they choose a difficult tense, they continue struggling even when a simpler path is available. But spoken English is flexible. You are allowed to divide the sentence. You are allowed to change direction. You are allowed to choose an easier structure. You are not completing an exam question. You are delivering meaning to another person. Suppose you begin. The person with whom I was discussing the project. The structure feels unnatural in the moment. You can simplify. I was discussing the project with someone, and that person suggested a better solution. The sentence remains clear. Suppose you begin. Had I known that the meeting would, you become uncertain. You can say, I did not know the meeting would be cancelled. If I had known, I would not have traveled so far. The idea lands through two simpler sentences. A sentence does not become weak because you divide it. It becomes weak when you allow complexity to bury the meaning. The strongest speakers know when to simplify before the structure collapses. This requires humility. You must stop trying to prove how much English you know and start focusing on how clearly you can communicate. The desire to sound advanced often creates unfinished sentences. You think, this is my chance to use a difficult word. This is my chance to create a long sentence. This is my chance to sound fluent. Then speaking becomes a performance instead of communication. You begin monitoring how impressive the sentence sounds, and the main thought moves into the background. The listener does not need a demonstration of your entire vocabulary. The listener needs the message. Advanced language should serve the thought. The thought should never be sacrificed to advanced language. This principle is especially important during stressful conversations. When you are speaking with a manager, teacher, stranger, interviewer, or fluent English speaker, your attention may become divided. Part of you is trying to communicate. Another part is watching yourself. Am I making mistakes? Does my accent sound bad? Do I look nervous? Is this word correct? Are they judging me? This self-monitoring uses the mental energy you need for sentence control. Then a word disappears and the internal observer becomes even louder. You forgot it. You are failing. They can see that your English is weak. At this moment, protecting the main thought becomes both a language skill and an emotional skill. You must refuse to leave the message in order to judge yourself. Return to the listener. Return to the purpose. Return to the one thing you are trying to communicate. This is why conversational confidence is not simply believing that your English is perfect. It is trusting that you can keep going when your English is imperfect. Let us imagine a job interview. The interviewer asks, "Tell me about a difficult problem you solved." You begin. "In my previous job, we had a serious problem with the delivery system because it was very..." You want the word inefficient, but it disappears. A frightened learner may stop. "It was very..." I forgot the word, sorry. Now the sentence loses energy. A flexible speaker continues. "The system was taking too much time and creating repeated delays." The interviewer understands immediately. You continue. "I reorganized the process, divided responsibilities more clearly, and reduced the average delivery time by 2 days." The answer becomes strong. The missing word caused no real damage because the main thought remained protected. Now imagine a social conversation. Someone asks, "What kind of people do you enjoy spending time with?" You want to say open-minded, but the word disappears. You can say, "I enjoy spending time with people who listen to different opinions and do not judge others too quickly." This answer may actually communicate more than the single word. Sometimes speaking around a missing word creates richer expression. The gap forces you to explain what the idea truly means to you. You are not merely saying someone is kind, you are showing what kindness looks like. You are not merely saying a situation was stressful, you are explaining what created the pressure. You are not merely saying an experience was meaningful, you are revealing why it changed you. This is one reason descriptive flexibility can improve your overall speaking, not just rescue it. It moves you away from empty labels and toward complete meaning. Consider the word successful. A learner may say, "I want to become successful." The sentence is grammatically correct, but the meaning is broad. What does successful mean? A flexible speaker may explain, "For me, success means having enough financial stability to support my family, doing work I respect, and having time to live without constant pressure." This explanation is stronger than the label. The same applies to happy. "I want to be happy" is understandable. But what does happiness mean? "I want a life where I can work with purpose, spend time with people I love, and feel peaceful when I am alone." The sentence carries more truth because the speaker is connected to meaning rather than only vocabulary. Protecting the thought also means remembering the central message while adding detail. Sometimes no word is missing, but your explanation becomes so detailed that you forget why you started speaking. Suppose you want to explain, "I missed the meeting because my car broke down." You begin, "I was driving to the office, and there is a road near my house where there are usually many cars, and yesterday the weather was also." You are adding information, but the main thought is disappearing. To protect it, return to the message. "I missed the meeting because my car broke down on the way to the office." Now, after the main thought lands, you may add detail. "I had to wait nearly an hour for assistance, and by then the meeting had already ended." The central meaning arrives first, details follow it. A useful question is, what must survive if I forget everything else? In the example, the essential meaning is, "My car broke down, so I missed the meeting." The weather, road, traffic, and time may be useful, but they are secondary. When the sentence becomes overloaded, protect the essential meaning first. This is especially helpful during storytelling. Learners often get lost because they remember many small details but forget the central event. Before telling a story, identify the core line. For example, "I trusted the wrong person and learned to be more careful." "We got lost during the trip, but the mistake led us to a beautiful place." "I failed the first interview, but it taught me how to prepare properly." "My teacher corrected me publicly, and I lost confidence for several months." This core line is the thought you must protect. You can add scenes, emotions, and details, but the story must continue moving toward that line. Without a core thought, storytelling becomes a collection of memories. With a core thought, every detail has a purpose. You can practice protecting the main thought through a simple exercise called the message anchor. Choose a topic, for example, why I changed my job. Create one short anchor sentence. I changed my job because I had stopped growing. Now speak for 1 minute about the topic. You may explain the work, the manager, your responsibilities, your feelings, or your decision. But whenever you feel lost, return mentally to the anchor. I changed my job because I had stopped growing. You do not need to repeat it aloud every time. It remains inside your mind as the center of the explanation. Try another topic. Why I am learning English. Anchor. I am learning English because I want more freedom in my life. Now build around it. You may discuss travel, work, confidence, education, or communication. But every detail should connect to freedom. Another topic. A difficult lesson I learned. Anchor. I learned that avoiding a problem usually makes it larger. Now your examples and reflections have one center. This practice trains your attention to stay loyal to meaning. Another useful exercise is forbidden word speaking. Choose a common word and explain it without using the word itself. Explain hospital without saying hospital. It is a place where doctors and nurses treat people who are sick or injured. Explain jealous without saying jealous. It is the uncomfortable feeling you may have when someone else has something you want or receives attention you wish you had. Explain confidence without saying confidence. It is the feeling that you can act, speak, or make decisions without being controlled by fear. This exercise teaches your mind that meaning is larger than vocabulary. You can also practice with objects around you. Choose an object and describe it as if the listener cannot see it. Do not say its name immediately. Explain its shape, material, purpose, location, and how people use it. For example, it is a small rectangular device with a screen. People use it to call others, send messages, take photographs, and access information. The answer is phone. This builds your ability to speak around missing nouns. For abstract ideas, use situations. Explain patience through a situation. Imagine waiting a long time for something important without becoming angry or giving up. That ability is patience. Explain loyalty. It means continuing to support someone or remain committed even when the situation becomes difficult. Explain regret. It is the painful feeling that appears when you wish you had made a different decision in the past. These exercises deepen vocabulary instead of merely increasing it. You are learning the internal shape of the word. Another practice is sentence rescue. Begin speaking about a topic and deliberately choose one difficult word. Pretend the word disappears, then complete the sentence without it. For example, original plan. The experience was humiliating. Rescue. The experience made me feel deeply embarrassed in front of everyone. Original plan. The instructions were ambiguous. Rescue. The instructions were not clear, so different people understood them in different ways. Original plan. She was extremely compassionate. Rescue. She noticed other people's pain and always tried to help them. This exercise changes your emotional response to vocabulary gaps. Instead of fearing them, you begin treating them as solvable speaking problems. The goal is not to avoid learning advanced words. Continue learning them. Expand your vocabulary. Improve your accuracy. But do not allow vocabulary growth to create vocabulary dependence. The more words you learn, the more choices you should gain. You should not become less flexible because you are searching for the most impressive choice. A large vocabulary should serve communication, not control it. You must also understand that sometimes the listener can help you find the word. Asking for help is not failure. You can say, "What is the word for the device that measures temperature?" Or, "I cannot remember the exact word, but I mean someone who never changes their opinion." The listener may say, "Stubborn?" You can respond, "Yes, stubborn." The conversation continues naturally. But notice the difference between asking with meaning and simply stopping. "I forgot the word" gives the listener little information. It is the word for someone who refuses to change their mind, keeps you inside the conversation, and makes it easy for the listener to help. Even when you ask, protect the meaning. There is another danger learners face, replacing a missing word with a word that is too general. They use thing, good, bad, nice, problem, or stuff for almost everything. These words can rescue a sentence temporarily, but overusing them weakens the message. Instead of only saying thing, add a function or quality. Not, "I need the thing for my phone." Better, "I need the cable that connects my phone to the charger." Not, "The meeting was bad." Better, "The meeting was badly organized, and nobody knew what decision had to be made." Not, she is a nice person. Better, she listens carefully and makes people feel comfortable. You may use general words, but support them with meaning. Your goal is not simply to continue making sound. Your goal is to continue communicating clearly. Protecting the thought means preserving its emotional and logical center. Suppose you want to say, I felt ignored, but you forget the word ignored. You say, they did not listen to me. This is close, but perhaps your real feeling was deeper. You can add, I felt as though my opinion did not matter. Now the emotional center survives. Suppose you want to say, the decision was unfair. You forget unfair. You say, different people were treated by different rules, even though the situation was the same. The logical center survives. Suppose you want to say, I became discouraged. You forget the word. You say, after several failures, I began to feel that continuing was pointless. The meaning becomes clear. This teaches an important truth. A synonym is not always the only replacement. Sometimes the best replacement is an explanation of cause, effect, or experience. Instead of searching horizontally for another single word, move outward into the meaning. Ask, what does this word look like in real life? What causes it? What effect does it create? How would I explain it to a child? What is an example? What is the opposite? These questions open new roads. Now let us talk about speed. Many learners know how to explain a missing word, but they do it too slowly because they continue searching for the original word while speaking around it. Their mouth says one thing, but their mind is still fighting with the vocabulary gap. You must learn to release the missing word. Once you choose another route, stop searching for the first route. Commit to the new sentence. Suppose affordable disappears. You decide to say, it does not cost too much. Do not continue thinking, what was the word? Affordable? Economical? Cheap? Say the replacement and move forward. A sentence becomes unstable when your mind travels on two roads at once. One part is producing the simpler expression, another part is still searching for the advanced word. This divides your attention. Choose the road and trust it. The listener does not know the original sentence inside your head. They only hear what you say. A clear replacement does not feel like a failure to them. It only feels like communication. You are often the only person comparing your spoken sentence with the perfect version you imagined. Let that imagined version go. The goal is not to reproduce your first mental draft. The goal is to deliver the meaning successfully. There will also be times when your thought itself changes while you speak. You begin with one opinion and realize that your real position is more complicated. This is not necessarily a failure. Human thinking is flexible. You can protect the main thought by acknowledging the change clearly. For example, at first I thought the decision was completely wrong, but the more I considered the situation, the more I realized that it was necessary, although it could have been handled better. The speaker changes direction, but the change is controlled. Or, I was going to say that working from home is always better, but that is not exactly what I believe. It is better for concentration, but office work can be more useful for collaboration. This is thoughtful speaking. You are not trapped inside your first sentence. You can revise the message without collapsing. The key is to make the new direction explicit. Use phrases such as, what I really mean is, let me say that more clearly. A better way to explain it is, that is not exactly the point I want to make. The main thing I am trying to say is, these phrases are valuable when they return you to meaning. They should not become nervous habits used every few seconds. Use them when the sentence genuinely needs repair or clarification. For example, I think confidence comes from success. Actually, let me say that more clearly. Confidence often comes from seeing that you can survive difficulty, even when the result is not perfect. The speaker did not restart the entire explanation. They protected the deeper thought. This is sentence recovery at a high level. You notice that the first wording is incomplete or inaccurate, and you refine it without losing the listener. The more comfortable you become with this process, the less afraid you will be of beginning meaningful sentences. You will know that the first version does not need to be perfect. You can shape the message while speaking. Fluency is not always a straight line. Sometimes it is the ability to bend without breaking. This chapter is also about protecting your confidence. When a word disappears, do not make the gap larger with unnecessary apologies. Some learners say, sorry, my English is very bad. I cannot explain. I know the word but I forgot it. Sorry. The apology becomes longer than the missing word. It also pulls the conversation away from the topic and places attention on your insecurity. A brief pause is enough. You can say, I cannot remember the exact word, but... then explain it, or simply continue with a different expression. The listener usually cares more about the meaning than your vocabulary process. Do not turn a normal speaking difficulty into a public judgment of yourself. Every time you continue successfully, you teach your mind, I can survive uncertainty. This lesson is more valuable than remembering one perfect word. Over time, your speaking reflex changes. Before, the missing word triggered panic. Now it triggers flexibility. Before, you stopped. Now you simplify. Before, you apologized. Now you describe. Before, you abandoned the sentence. Now you protect the thought. This is how fluency becomes dependable. Not because every conversation becomes easy, but because difficulty no longer ends the conversation. Let us create a practical daily routine for this skill. Begin with 5 familiar words. Choose one word and explain it without naming it, then create a sentence using the word. Next, create another sentence using a simpler explanation instead of the word. For example, word, reliable. Explanation, someone or something you can trust to do what is expected. Sentence with the word, my colleague is reliable, so I trust him with important work. Sentence without the word, my colleague always completes important work when he promises to do it. Now choose confusing. Explanation, difficult to understand because the information is not clear. Sentence with the word, the instructions were confusing. Sentence without the word, the instructions were not clear, so I did not know what to do first. Do this with 5 words every day. You will build vocabulary and flexibility together. Next, practice the 30-second rescue. Choose a topic and speak for 30 seconds. Whenever a word disappears, do not pause for more than 2 seconds. Immediately simplify, describe, compare, or give an example. Record yourself. Afterward, listen for the moment of difficulty. Ask, did I remain connected to the message? Did I continue naturally? Could I use a clearer replacement next time? Do not ask only, what word did I forget? The forgotten word is less important than the behavior you practiced. Another exercise is the meaning ladder. Choose one idea and express it at 3 levels. Level 1, one simple word. Level 2, a short phrase. Level 3, a complete explanation. For example, Level 1, disappointed. Level 2, not happy with the result. Level 3, I expected the result to be much better, so I felt upset when it did not meet my expectations. Another. Level 1, independent. Level 2, able to manage alone. Level 3, a person who can make decisions, solve problems, and take care of their responsibilities without depending completely on others. This exercise gives you several ways to carry the same meaning. In conversation, you can choose the level that appears fastest. You can also practice with sentence anchors and vocabulary obstacles together. Anchor. I left the project because the organization was poor. Now speak about the project, but imagine that you cannot use the words organization, management, or planning. You must express the idea another way. I left the project because nobody knew who was responsible for each task, deadlines kept changing, and important decisions were never made clearly. The message becomes stronger through explanation. This teaches you that vocabulary gaps can sometimes improve precision. You stop hiding behind broad labels and show the listener what actually happened. As you practice, remember that speed is not the only goal. Your first aim is continuity with clarity. Do not rush through the replacement expression. Speak calmly. Give the meaning enough space. A short pause followed by a clear explanation sounds more confident than a fast but confused sequence of words. You are allowed to breathe. You are allowed to think. You are allowed to choose a simpler path. Sentence control is not the absence of pauses, it is the ability to prevent the pause from destroying the direction. There is a difference between a thinking pause and a surrendering pause. A thinking pause says, I am still carrying the thought. A surrendering pause says, I have lost the thought and abandoned the sentence. The listener can often feel the difference through your expression and voice. During a thinking pause, keep your attention on the message. Do not lower your confidence. Do not begin apologizing. Allow the next phrase to come. You can use light bridge phrases. What I mean is, the easiest way to explain it is something that, the main point is. In other words, these phrases create a small amount of time while preserving direction. For example, the situation was the easiest way to explain it is that nobody knew what was expected of them. Or, he was quite. What I mean is, he always thought his opinion was more important than everyone else's. The missing word becomes almost invisible because the sentence continues toward meaning. Do not overuse bridge phrases. Their purpose is to support the thought, not replace it. The strongest long-term solution is to create deep vocabulary knowledge. When learning a new word, do not only memorize its translation, learn what it means in simple English, what situations it appears in, what words commonly appear near it, what its opposite is, what one example looks like, how you would explain it without using the word. For reluctant, you might learn simple meaning, not willing or not eager to do something. Example, she was reluctant to speak because she feared criticism. Opposite, willing or eager. Explanation without the word, she did not really want to do it and needed time before agreeing. Now the word becomes part of a network. A word connected to many ideas is easier to retrieve than a word connected only to a translation. This is how you turn passive vocabulary into speaking vocabulary. But even with deep learning, gaps will still happen. That is normal. Your goal is not to eliminate every gap. Your goal is to become stronger than the gap. The sentence must remain larger than the missing word. The message must remain larger than the mistake. Your confidence must remain larger than the moment of uncertainty. Think about the deeper reason you speak English. You speak to connect. You speak to explain. You speak to ask. You speak to share. You speak to persuade. You speak to reveal something that exists inside your mind. A single vocabulary item should never be allowed to block that human purpose. Your English does not live inside perfect words. It lives inside the meanings you are able to deliver. From today, when a word disappears, do not immediately stop. Hold the main thought. Look at the destination. Ask what the listener truly needs to understand. Then choose another road. Use a simpler word. Describe the object. Explain the feeling. Give an example. Show the opposite. Divide the structure. Change the sentence. Continue. You are not losing the sentence when you change its language. You are saving it. The strongest sentence is not always the one that uses the most advanced vocabulary. It is the one that survives difficulty and still reaches the listener clearly. Your words may hesitate. Your grammar may adjust. Your original plan may disappear. But the thought can remain alive. Protect it. Carry it. Do not leave it behind because one word refused to come. The listener does not need the exact sentence you imagined. The listener needs the meaning you promised to deliver. And once you learn to protect that meaning, one missing word will never again have the power to silence your entire English voice. Chapter 5. Stop expanding the sentence before it is complete. One of the biggest reasons English sentences remain unfinished is not a lack of vocabulary, weak grammar, or slow thinking. It is the habit of adding more before completing what is already there. You begin with one idea, but before that idea reaches its ending, another thought appears. Then a detail enters, then a memory, then an example, then a correction, then a second opinion that partly disagrees with the first one. Within a few seconds, you are no longer carrying one sentence. You are carrying several unfinished thoughts at the same time. The sentence becomes heavier with every new addition. Your mind tries to remember where it started, what it has already explained, which details still matter, and how all of these pieces should finally connect. Eventually, the original message becomes buried beneath the information you added to support it. You began with something clear, you ended inside something complicated. This does not happen because you have nothing to say. It often happens because you have too much to say, and you have not learned how to control the order in which your ideas leave your mouth. The skill you need is not greater complexity, it is closure. You must learn to complete the first thought before opening the next one. The central rule of this chapter is simple. Land first, expand second. Say the main message clearly, allow it to finish, then add the reason, example, contrast, detail, or deeper explanation as a new sentence. This small change can transform your speaking because it removes the pressure of carrying the entire idea in one structure. Imagine that someone asks, "Why did you leave your previous job?" You know the answer. You left because there was no opportunity to grow. But several related ideas also appear. The manager did not support you. The salary was low. The office was far from your home. You were tired. Another company offered you a better role. You begin, "I left my previous job because there was no opportunity for growth, and my manager was also not very supportive, although the people in my team were good, but the salary was not enough," and then another company. The sentence keeps opening new directions. The listener is trying to understand the main reason, but every new detail competes for attention. A controlled answer begins by landing the first thought. "I left my previous job because there was no opportunity for growth." The message is complete. Now you can expand. I had been performing the same responsibilities for a long time, but there was no clear path toward a higher position. That thought lands. Then add another. My manager was also unable to offer the guidance I needed. That lands too. Finally, when another company offered me a role with greater responsibility, I decided it was time to move forward. The answer now contains all the important information, but the speaker is not carrying everything at once. The meaning becomes clearer because each idea receives its own space. This is what strong speaking sounds like. It is not one endless sentence. It is a sequence of complete thoughts. Many learners believe that stopping a sentence and beginning another one will make their English sound simple. They think fluent speakers connect everything through long grammatical structures, so they keep using and, because, but, although, which, so, and when to prevent the sentence from ending. But fluent speaking is not measured by how long you can avoid a full stop. It is measured by how clearly you can guide the listener through your meaning. A listener does not admire a sentence simply because it is long. The listener appreciates a sentence because it is easy to follow. A short sentence can sound intelligent. A long sentence can sound confused. Length does not create depth. Clear organization creates depth. Consider this answer. I think social media is useful because people can communicate and learn new things, but it can also waste time, and many people compare themselves with others, which makes them unhappy, although it depends on how people use it, and there are also businesses. The speaker has several valid points, but none of them is given enough room to land. Now listen to the same idea with closure. Social media can be useful when people use it with purpose. It allows us to communicate, learn new skills, and discover opportunities. However, it can also waste enormous amounts of time. Constant comparison may also damage confidence and emotional well-being. The real effect of social media depends on whether we control our use or allow it to control us. This response is longer in total, but easier to understand. Why? Because each sentence completes one job. The first introduces the position. The second explains the benefit. The third introduces the danger. The fourth develops that danger. The fifth gives the conclusion. The speaker is still discussing a complex subject, but the explanation is built through completed units. This is the difference between complexity and confusion. Complexity contains many connected ideas. Confusion releases those ideas without controlling their order. Your goal is not to make your thoughts smaller. Your goal is to give each thought a proper place. The hidden pressure to say everything at once. Why do learners expand sentences before completing them? One reason is fear. You may be afraid that if you stop, you will forget the next idea. So the moment a thought appears, you try to push it into the current sentence before it disappears. You think, I must say this detail now. I may forget this example. This other point is also important. I need to explain everything so the listener understands me. But when you force every new idea into the same sentence, you increase the chance of forgetting all of them. Your mind has limited working space during conversation. It must choose words, organize grammar, control pronunciation, observe the listener, and remember the direction. Every unfinished addition places another demand on that space. The more open ideas you carry, the less attention remains for completing any one of them. Trying to protect every thought can cause you to lose the entire message. A better approach is to trust sequence. You do not need to say everything now. You only need to say the next clear thing. Finish the current thought, pause briefly, then continue with the next one. Even if you forget one small detail, the listener will still receive several complete ideas. That is far better than hearing every detail inside a sentence that never arrives. Another reason learners expand too early is the desire to sound complete. You believe one short answer may not be enough, so you begin adding information before deciding what kind of information is truly needed. Someone asks, "What do you like about your hometown?" You could say, "I like my hometown because it is peaceful." That is already a complete answer. You can then expand. The mountains around it make the environment feel calm. Then, most people also know one another, so the community feels close. Then, it does not offer as many career opportunities as a large city, but it remains an important place to me. The response becomes rich naturally, but a learner may try to create richness immediately. I like my hometown because it is peaceful and there are mountains and the people know each other, although there are not many jobs. But when I was young, the problem is not the ideas, the problem is the timing. You are trying to deliver the conclusion, description, contrast, and personal memory before the first statement has closed. Rich speaking is not created by adding everything to the beginning. It is created by developing one completed idea after another. Learn to recognize an open thought. To control sentence expansion, you must learn to feel when a thought is still open. An open thought creates expectation. When you say because, the listener expects a reason. When you say although, the listener expects the opposite side. When you say if, the listener expects a result. When you say the reason is, the listener expects an explanation. When you say one thing I learned was, the listener expects the lesson. When you say the biggest problem is, the listener expects the problem to be named. Until that expectation is satisfied, the sentence remains open. For example, I became more confident because. The thought is open. I became more confident because I began speaking English every day. Now it is closed. You may expand afterward. At first I made many mistakes, but repetition slowly reduced my fear. That is a new thought. Then, I eventually understood that confidence does not come before practice, it grows through practice. Each sentence lands before the next begins. Now consider. Although the experience was difficult, the listener is waiting for the contrast. Although the experience was difficult, it taught me how to make decisions under pressure. The sentence is closed, then expand. I also discovered that I was more capable than I had believed. The new detail does not interrupt the original structure because the first thought has already arrived. This awareness is important because many learners open another structure while the first one is still unfinished. For example, although the job was difficult because the manager expected too much and the team was small, which meant that the speaker opened a contrast with although, then opened a reason with because, then opened an explanation with which, without completing the first structure. The mind is now responsible for closing several grammatical doors. A safer version is, the job was difficult because the manager expected too much from a very small team. Although the pressure was exhausting, the experience taught me how to organize my work more effectively. The ideas remain connected, but they are not fighting for control inside one sentence. A powerful habit is to ask yourself, have I completed the promise created by my opening? If you said because, have you given the reason? If you said but, have you completed the contrast? If you introduced a problem, have you clearly named it? If you began an example, have you shown what the example proves? Complete the promise before creating another one. One idea does not need every detail. Many sentences become overloaded because the speaker cannot separate essential information from optional information. Suppose you want to say, I was late because the bus broke down. That is the essential meaning. You may also remember that it was raining, the bus was crowded, you left home early, the driver made a phone call, and another bus eventually arrived. These details may make the story more interesting, but they are not all necessary for the first sentence. Land the essential meaning. I arrived late because my bus broke down. Then expand. We waited for nearly 20 minutes before another bus arrived. Then, the delay was especially frustrating because I had left home earlier than usual. Now the listener understands both the event and the emotion. When you try to include every detail before stating what happened, the story becomes harder to follow. I left home early because I had an important meeting, and it was raining, and the bus was crowded, but after some time the driver stopped, and then? The listener still does not know the main event. Give the result first, then take the listener backward or deeper when necessary. This principle is extremely useful in professional English. When explaining a problem at work, begin with the essential message. The delivery will be delayed by 2 days, then explain why. One of our suppliers was unable to provide the materials on time. Then explain the response. We have contacted another supplier and expect production to restart tomorrow. Then give the next action. I will send you an updated schedule by the end of the day. The listener receives information in a clear order. A weaker version might begin. We were working on the order, and our supplier contacted us yesterday, and there was a problem with the materials, although we were expecting. The listener must wait too long to discover what the problem actually means. A strong speaker does not hide the main message beneath its history. Land the result, then expand the explanation. The difference between supporting and wandering. Not every additional detail strengthens your sentence. Some details support the main point, others pull the conversation away from it. Suppose your main point is, daily reading improved my vocabulary. Useful support might include, I repeatedly saw new words in meaningful contexts. I began recognizing how words were used naturally. I wrote down useful phrases and later practiced speaking with them. These details strengthen the original message. But you may begin talking about where you bought the books, what color the covers were, who recommended them, or how much they cost. Those details may be interesting in another context, but they do not directly explain how reading improved your vocabulary. A speaker who cannot distinguish support from wandering often becomes lost. Every detail feels connected because it came from the same memory. But being connected to the same memory does not mean it belongs in the same sentence or explanation. Ask, does this detail help the listener understand my central point? If it does, include it. If it does not, save it. Suppose you are answering, why did you enjoy the trip? Main idea, I enjoyed the trip because it gave me a break from constant pressure. Useful expansion, the peaceful environment helped me slow down and think clearly. The time away from work allowed me to reconnect with my family. Less useful expansion, the hotel had blue curtains. Unless the curtains somehow affected the experience, they do not serve the central message. Clear speaking requires selection. You may know 10 details. Choose the 2 that carry the most meaning. This is not hiding information, it is respecting the listener's attention. Closure creates confidence. When you regularly finish your thoughts, something changes inside you. You begin trusting your ability to speak. Before, every answer felt dangerous because you did not know whether you would reach the ending. You entered sentences and hoped that the structure would survive. The longer you spoke, the more pressure you felt. But when you practice closure, your mind receives repeated proof. I can complete a thought. I can express a reason. I can explain a problem. I can finish what I begin. This creates a deeper kind of confidence than memorizing advanced vocabulary. Vocabulary gives you material. Closure gives you control. A learner with strong closure can communicate clearly with basic English. A learner without closure may know advanced English but sound uncertain because their thoughts keep breaking apart. Imagine 2 speakers answering, what did you learn from your biggest failure? The first says, my biggest failure taught me that preparation is more important than confidence. I believed I could succeed without practicing enough, but the experience showed me that belief without preparation is fragile. Since then, I have learned to respect the work that must happen before an important moment. The answer contains several sentences, but each one lands. The second speaker says, my biggest failure taught me many things because before that I was confident, and I thought I could do it, although I had not prepared enough, which was a mistake. And after that, the second speaker may have the same lesson inside their mind, but the listener receives less of it because the sentence remains open too long. Confidence is not only heard in pronunciation or volume, it is heard in completion. A speaker sounds confident when ideas arrive with purpose. Finish the basic version first. A powerful strategy for learners is to create the basic version of the message before adding the stronger version. Suppose you want to describe a difficult experience. The basic version is, the experience was difficult because I felt completely alone. That sentence lands. Now you can deepen it. I had people around me, but nobody understood what I was carrying emotionally. Then, the experience taught me that being surrounded by people is not the same as feeling supported. The message becomes powerful through expansion after completion. But many learners try to begin with the deepest version. The experience was difficult because even though people were around me, emotionally I felt. The emotional meaning may be strong, but the structure becomes demanding before the foundation is stable. Build the basic sentence first. Then add depth. This method works for opinions. Basic version, I disagree with the decision because it creates unnecessary pressure. Expansion, it expects people to produce more without giving them additional time or support. Deeper conclusion, a decision cannot be called efficient if it improves numbers by damaging the people responsible for producing them. It works for storytelling. Basic version, I missed an important opportunity because I was afraid to speak. Expansion, I had prepared my ideas, but when the moment came, I convinced myself that remaining silent was safer. Lesson, that experience taught me that fear can protect you from embarrassment while also stealing your chance to grow. It works for personal goals. Basic version, I want to improve my English because I want greater independence. Expansion, I do not want to depend on other people whenever I need to communicate, apply for an opportunity, or express an important idea. Deeper conclusion, for me, fluency is not only a language goal. It is a form of freedom. Notice how the strongest final sentence becomes possible because the earlier ideas have already landed. Depth needs space. Closure creates that space. Use the full stop as a speaking tool. In writing, a full stop is visible. In speaking, a full stop is created through voice, rhythm, and pause. Many learners speak as though every sentence must remain connected. Their voice never fully settles, and they immediately add and, so, or because after each idea. This creates the feeling that the speaker has not completed anything. Learn to use a calm speaking pause. Finish the sentence. Allow your voice to come down. Pause for a moment, then begin the next thought. For example, I was nervous during the presentation. Pause. My preparation disappeared the moment everyone looked at me. Pause. But I continued speaking, even though my voice was shaking. Pause. That moment taught me that courage does not always feel confident. The pauses do not weaken the story, they give each sentence weight. When you never pause, important ideas pass too quickly. The listener has no time to receive them, and you have no time to prepare the next sentence. A pause is not empty, it separates meaning, it allows the listener to process. It allows your mind to reset, it signals that one thought has landed. You may feel uncomfortable during the pause because you are used to filling silence, but silence becomes powerful when it follows a clear message. Do not add unnecessary words simply because the sentence has ended. Trust the ending. Stop repairing what the listener already understood. Another form of unnecessary expansion is repeated clarification. You say something understandable, but because it did not sound perfect to you, you explain it again. Then you explain the explanation. Then you give an example that was not needed. For example, I was disappointed with the result. I was not happy with it. What I want to say is that the result was not what I expected. Basically, I expected something better. The first sentence already communicated the meaning. The extra sentences did not deepen it, they only repeated it. This often happens because the learner is listening to themselves with extreme criticism. You hear a small grammar issue or an ordinary word and assume the listener did not understand. But communication does not require every sentence to sound exactly as you imagined it. Ask, did the listener receive the message? If yes, move forward. Do not keep reopening a completed thought. A completed sentence should remain completed unless genuine confusion appears. Suppose you say, I was very tired after the journey. The sentence is clear. You do not need to add, the journey made me tired. I had no energy. What I am trying to say is, instead, move to new information. I went directly to bed and slept for nearly 10 hours. That expands the meaning rather than repeating it. Good expansion adds a new layer. Weak expansion says the same thing in several forms. Give every sentence one main responsibility. A useful way to control expansion is to assign one responsibility to each sentence. The first sentence may state the opinion. The second may explain the reason. The third may give an example. The fourth may acknowledge the opposite side. The fifth may provide the conclusion. For example, the topic is working from home better than working in an office? Opinion, I prefer working from home. Reason, it gives me greater control over my environment and allows me to focus for longer periods. Example, in an office, unexpected conversations often interrupt tasks that require deep concentration. Opposite side, however, office work can be more effective when a team needs constant communication. Conclusion, the better option depends on whether the work requires individual focus or frequent collaboration. This answer sounds organized because each sentence knows its job. Now imagine trying to perform all 5 jobs at once. I prefer working from home because I can focus, although offices are better for teamwork and sometimes people interrupt me. But communication is also important, so it depends. The meaning is there, but the organization is weak. When one sentence has too many responsibilities, it often completes none of them strongly. Before adding information, ask, is this the same job or is this a new job? If it is a new job, begin a new sentence. A reason is one job. An example is another. A contrast is another. A lesson is another. They can appear in the same sentence when the structure is simple and controlled, but they do not need to. Choosing a new sentence is not failure, it is intelligent management. Control the desire to correct yourself. Many learners expand sentences because they keep correcting what they already said. You begin. My brother works in a company which produces. By the time the corrections are finished, the original message may be lost. Small corrections are sometimes useful, especially when the mistake changes the meaning. but not every grammatical error needs immediate repair. Suppose you say, "Yesterday I go to the market because I needed medicine." The tense is incorrect, but the listener understands. You may continue, "The pharmacy near my house did not have it, so I had to visit another one." The conversation survives. Later during practice, you can correct the original sentence. "Yesterday I went to the market because I needed medicine." But during communication, constant repair may create greater damage than the small mistake itself. Use a simple rule: correct quickly if the meaning is wrong. Continue if the meaning is clear. For example, "I met him on Tuesday. Sorry, I mean Thursday." The correction matters because the day changes the information. But, "She works at a hospital." The correction is possible, but if it interrupts your entire flow, continuing may be better. You are not ignoring grammar. You are deciding when grammar should be repaired. The main sentence must remain protected. Another dangerous habit is restarting from the beginning after a small mistake. You say, "I decided to, let me start again. Last year, I decided to." Then another mistake appears. "Last year, I was deciding, sorry, last year." Every restart creates more pressure because you feel that the next version must be perfect. Instead, repair only the damaged section. "Last year, I decided to change my career." Continue from there. Do not rebuild the whole house because one small window needs adjustment. Expand through new sentences, not endless connectors. Connectors are useful, but learners often use them to keep adding information without closing the sentence. "And" is the most common example. "I went to the shop, and I met my friend, and we talked, and then we decided." This may be acceptable in a simple story, but repeated "and" can hide weak organization. Ask what relationship exists between the ideas. Is it time? Use "after that," later. While we were talking, is it a reason? Use "because." The reason was. Is it a contrast? Use "however," but, although. Is it a result? Use "as a result, so." This meant that. More importantly, allow the previous sentence to finish before adding the connector. Instead of, "I wanted to attend the course, but it was expensive and I was also busy, so I waited," and then try, "I wanted to attend the course, but it was too expensive at the time. I was also managing a very busy schedule, so I decided to wait. A few months later, the price was reduced, and I finally enrolled." The relationships are clearer because each sentence has a manageable amount of work. Connectors should build bridges between completed ideas. They should not keep one sentence alive forever. The power of controlled expansion. Controlled expansion follows an order. First, state the message. Second, explain it. Third, deepen it. Fourth, stop when the purpose is complete. For example, message: "I used to avoid difficult conversations." Explanation: "I was afraid that speaking honestly would create conflict." Deepening: "However, silence did not remove the problem. It only allowed frustration to grow." Conclusion: "I eventually learned that respectful honesty protects relationships better than hidden resentment." The response becomes meaningful without becoming confusing. Another example, message: "My pronunciation improved when I started listening more carefully." Explanation: "I stopped focusing only on individual words and began noticing rhythm, stress, and connected sounds." Deepening: "This helped me understand that pronunciation is not simply producing correct letters. It is learning how English moves." Conclusion: "Once I began copying that movement, my speech became smoother and easier to understand." Every sentence adds something new. No sentence is forced to carry everything. This is how a simple answer becomes a powerful explanation. Practice the one landing rule. To break the habit of uncontrolled expansion, practice the one landing rule. For 1 week, focus on finishing one clear message before adding anything else. Choose an everyday question. What did you do today? First landing: "I spent most of the day completing an important project." Stop. Second landing: "The work required more time than I expected." Stop. Third landing: "I felt tired afterward, but I was satisfied with the result." Stop. You may connect the sentences naturally, but each one must be able to stand on its own. Another question: what is one skill you want to develop? First landing: "I want to become better at expressing complicated ideas simply." Second landing: "I often understand what I mean, but my explanations become longer than necessary." Third landing: "This skill would make me a clearer speaker and a better communicator." Each sentence closes before the next begins. Practice with emotional topics. What has been difficult for you recently? First landing: I have been struggling to balance work and rest. Second landing. I continue thinking about responsibilities even when the workday has ended. Third landing. As a result, my body stops working, but my mind never fully relaxes. Fourth landing. I need to create clearer boundaries before exhaustion becomes normal. The answer is deep but controlled. Use the 3-second reset. When you finish one sentence, take a quiet mental reset before expanding. You do not need to remain silent for 3 full seconds in every conversation. The name simply reminds you not to rush immediately into another structure. After landing, ask, "What is the next most useful idea?" Not, "What else can I say?" The question, "What else can I say?" encourages quantity. The question, "What is the next most useful idea?" encourages direction. Suppose you say, "I enjoyed the course because it gave me a clear study plan." Reset. What is the next most useful idea? Perhaps, the daily exercises were short enough to maintain consistently. Reset. What next? The greatest benefit was that I no longer had to decide what to practice every day. Now the response feels focused. You did not simply list random positive features. You moved from general value to practical detail to personal impact. A short reset improves the quality of expansion. Know when the answer is finished. Some learners do not struggle to finish a sentence. They struggle to stop after finishing it. They reach the main conclusion, but continue adding weaker information until the answer loses its strength. For example, the most important lesson I learned was that I cannot control other people's choices. I can only control my response. This is a strong ending. But then the speaker adds, "And yes, that is what I learned, and there were many other things, and sometimes the power disappears." A strong ending should be protected. When the final message lands, allow it to remain. You do not need to decorate every conclusion. You do not need to explain a sentence that already feels complete. You do not need to continue merely because the listener has not spoken yet. Silence may mean they are thinking. Silence may mean your point had weight. Silence may simply be a natural part of conversation. Do not destroy a powerful ending because you are afraid of the space after it. A confident speaker knows when the thought has finished its work. A daily exercise for stronger closure. Choose one topic each day and create 5 complete sentences about it. Each sentence must have one central message. For example, the topic is, "Why I want to improve my speaking." Sentence 1. I want to improve my speaking because I understand far more English than I can currently express. Sentence 2. My limited speaking ability makes me appear less confident than I truly am. Sentence 3. I often shorten my ideas because I am afraid of losing control halfway through. Sentence 4. Better speaking would allow me to participate more fully in professional and social conversations. Sentence 5. My real goal is not perfect English. It is the freedom to complete my thoughts. Now speak these ideas without reading them. Do not memorize the exact words. Memorize the order of the meanings. If one sentence becomes difficult, simplify it and land it, then move to the next. You can also record a 1-minute answer and mark every place where you opened a new idea before completing the previous one. Listen for repeated words such as and, because, but, which, so, actually. These words are not wrong, but repeated use may reveal that you are avoiding closure. Ask, could this become a new sentence? Could I finish the main idea first? Did this detail strengthen the point or distract from it? Was the sentence already complete before I continued? This review will help you hear the difference between natural expansion and uncontrolled addition. Fluency is built through completion. You may believe fluency means words never stop, but non-stop speech is not always fluent speech. Real fluency contains movement and completion. It knows when to continue. It knows when to pause. It knows when to explain more. It knows when enough has been said. A river is powerful not because the water moves in every direction, but because it follows a channel. Your thoughts also need a channel. Without one, ideas spread everywhere and lose force. With one, even simple language can carry powerful meaning. Every completed sentence strengthens the next one. When the first idea lands, your mind becomes free to build the second. When the second lands, you can choose the third. You no longer need to remember an enormous unfinished structure. You only need to remain responsible for the sentence you are speaking now. This reduces pressure, it improves grammar, it strengthens rhythm, it gives the listener confidence in your direction. Most importantly, it allows your real thoughts to arrive. From today, stop forcing every reason, example, memory, and opinion into the sentence that is already moving. Do not allow a new thought to steal the ending from the current one. Complete the first promise, land the main meaning. Let the sentence breathe, then expand. Say one thing clearly before saying 5 things poorly. Give every idea its own place. Give every message its own ending. Your English does not become powerful because you can continue forever. It becomes powerful because you know how to finish, and because every finished sentence gives you a stronger place from which to begin again. Chapter 6. Recover without restarting the entire sentence. A sentence does not become useless because one part goes wrong. You may choose the wrong tense. You may use a word that does not express your meaning clearly. You may forget where the sentence was going. You may begin with a structure that becomes too difficult to finish. You may hear your own mistake halfway through and suddenly feel that everything must be rebuilt. This is the moment when many learners return to the beginning. They say, "I was trying to explain that. Sorry, let me start again." Then they repeat the opening. Another small problem appears. They stop again. "No, that is not what I mean. Let me say it again." The sentence becomes a cycle of beginnings. The more often you restart, the more pressure you create. The first attempt felt natural, but the second attempt feels like a correction. The third attempt feels like a test. Now you believe the next version must be perfect because the listener has already waded through several failed beginnings. Your confidence falls. Your attention moves away from the message. The sentence that once needed one small repair now feels impossible to complete. This chapter will teach you one of the most important abilities in spoken English: how to recover without returning to the first word. You will learn how to repair only the damaged part, keep the useful part of your sentence, simplify when the structure becomes unstable, and guide your meaning toward a clear ending even after something goes wrong. Real fluency is not the ability to speak without mistakes. Real fluency is the ability to remain in motion after a mistake appears. A strong speaker does not treat every problem as the end of the sentence. They make a small adjustment and continue. They do not destroy the entire road because one stone is out of place. They step around it. Why restarting feels safe but makes speaking harder. Restarting gives you a temporary feeling of control. When the sentence becomes difficult, returning to the beginning feels like a fresh opportunity. You believe you can rebuild it correctly if you have another chance. Sometimes this works. But if restarting becomes your normal reaction, your speaking begins to depend on perfect beginnings. You never learn how to survive the middle. This is dangerous because real conversation will never give you complete control. You will forget words. Your ideas will change. The listener may interrupt. You may realize that your first explanation was unclear. You may begin a sentence before knowing exactly how to finish it. If your only recovery method is starting again, every small difficulty becomes a complete failure. Imagine a driver who returns home every time they take one wrong turn. They would never reach a distant destination. A skilled driver does something different. They notice the mistake, find the next useful road, and continue from where they are. Your sentence needs the same flexibility. The goal is not to return to the perfect route. The goal is to reach the meaning. Suppose you say, "Yesterday I go to the bank because I needed to speak with the manager." You notice that go should have been went. You have two choices. You can restart. "Yesterday I go, sorry. Yesterday I went to the bank because," or you can make a light correction. "Yesterday I went to the bank because I needed to speak with the manager." A quick correction is fine because the repair is small and the direction remains clear. But now imagine you are already farther into the sentence. "Yesterday I go to the bank because I needed to speak with the manager about a payment that had not arrived." The message is completely understandable. Returning to the beginning may create more interruption than the original mistake. You can simply continue. "They checked the account and discovered that the transfer had been delayed." The listener has already understood the event. The small tense error does not need to control the conversation. This gives us an important principle. Not every mistake needs immediate repair. Some mistakes change the meaning. Some mistakes only damage accuracy. You must learn to recognize the difference. If the meaning becomes wrong, correct it. If the meaning remains clear, continuing may be the stronger choice. Suppose you say, "The meeting is on Thursday. Sorry, I mean Tuesday." The correction matters because the wrong day could create a real problem. But if you say, "My brother works in a hospital," the listener understands the message even though the grammar is imperfect. You can continue. "He has been there for nearly 5 years. During later practice, you can review the sentence and correct it. My brother works in a hospital. but during the conversation, completion may be more valuable than interruption. This does not mean grammar is unimportant. It means communication requires judgment. Repair the section, not the whole sentence. When a building has one damaged door, you do not destroy the entire building. You repair the door. Use the same approach with your English. Suppose you begin, "I decided to leave because the company was not giving me." You cannot find the phrase you wanted. You do not need to return to, "I decided to leave." You can repair from the point of difficulty. "The company was not giving me any opportunity to grow." Then continue, "I had been doing the same work for several years, and I felt that my progress had stopped." The useful beginning survives. Only the uncertain section changes. Another example. The book was interesting because the writer explained the idea in a very swift or. The adjective disappears. Instead of restarting, complete the meaning. The writer explained the idea in a way that was simple but still powerful. The sentence lands naturally. Or, "I wanted to attend the event, but because my schedule was." The structure feels unstable. Repair it from where it broke. "But my schedule was too busy, so I could not attend." You have changed the grammar without abandoning the thought. This ability is called local repair. You repair the local problem instead of rebuilding the complete sentence. Local repair keeps your rhythm alive. It also reduces mental pressure because you do not need to remember and reproduce everything you already said. You only need to solve the next small problem. This is how strong speaking becomes manageable. Do not ask, "How can I repeat the whole sentence perfectly?" Ask, "What is the smallest repair that will allow me to continue?" Use meaning to guide the recovery. When a sentence begins breaking, learners often search for grammar before recovering the meaning. They think, "Which tense should I use? Do I need which or that? Should the verb be singular or plural? How can I complete this structure correctly?" These questions may matter, but they are not always the first questions you should ask. First ask, "What am I still trying to say?" Meaning gives recovery a direction. Suppose you begin, "The reason why I did not complete the work was because there were several fifth or." Now you become unsure about the grammar. Return to the meaning. What are you trying to communicate? "There were several unexpected technical problems." Say that clearly. "I could not complete the work because several unexpected technical problems appeared." The new structure is simpler. The meaning survives. Another example. If I would have known that the office was closed, you sense that the grammar is incorrect. The central message is, you did not know the office was closed, so you traveled there unnecessarily. You can recover. I did not know the office was closed. If I had known, I would not have traveled there. Two simple sentences rescue one difficult structure. Meaning tells you what must remain. Grammar can then be rebuilt around it. Without meaning, you may keep repairing the form while forgetting the message. The 4 recovery movements. There are 4 powerful movements you can use whenever a sentence becomes unstable. Pause, return, reduce, and land. First, pause. Do not panic and fill the space with random words. Give yourself a brief moment to find the main direction. A controlled pause may last only 1 or 2 seconds. It does not mean the sentence is dead. It means you are protecting it. Second, return. Bring your attention back to the central message. Ask, "What is my real point?" Third, reduce. Remove unnecessary detail, difficult vocabulary, or complicated grammar. Choose the easiest available path. Fourth, land. Finish the sentence with one clear meaning. Let us apply these 4 movements. You begin. I believe that one of the biggest reasons people are not able to improve their English is because when they are, the structure becomes heavy. Pause. Return. What is the real point? People spend too much time studying and not enough time speaking. Reduce. Remove the complicated opening. Land. Many learners improve slowly because they study English for years but rarely practice speaking it. The sentence is saved. Another example. My first experience working in another city was difficult because I was away from my family, and the job was also. You begin losing the direction. Pause. Return. What do you want the listener to understand? The experience taught you independence. Reduce and land. Living away from my family was difficult, but it taught me how to manage life independently. You may add details afterward. I learned to solve daily problems without immediately asking others for help. The thought becomes stronger after recovery. Do not apologize for every repair. Many learners make the repair heavier by surrounding it with apologies. They say, Sorry, my English is not good. Sorry, I made a mistake. Sorry, I cannot explain it. Sorry, I need to start again. The apology interrupts the message more than the original mistake. It also changes the emotional direction of the conversation. Instead of listening to your idea, the other person is now being asked to respond to your insecurity. A small correction does not require a public announcement. You can simply repair it. I met her on Monday. Actually, it was Tuesday. Then continue. Or, the project was completed in June. Let me correct that, in July. The repair is clear and calm. You do not need to judge yourself. You only need to correct the information. When the wording is unclear, you can use a brief transition. Let me put that more clearly. What I mean is, a better way to explain it is, the main point is, these phrases help the listener follow the adjustment, but they should lead immediately to clearer meaning. For example, the experience made me angry. What I mean is, I was more disappointed than angry because I had trusted that person. The speaker improves the emotional accuracy without restarting the story. Or, I think technology makes people lazy. Let me put that more clearly. Technology can reduce effort when people use it to avoid thinking rather than to improve their work. The first statement was too broad. The speaker refines it while keeping the conversation moving. This is thoughtful recovery. It shows that you are not afraid to reshape your idea. Break one difficult sentence into two. Sometimes a sentence cannot be rescued while remaining in its original form. The structure is too long. Too many clauses are open. The grammar has become too difficult to manage. At that moment, division is one of the strongest recovery tools. End the current sentence as simply as possible. Then continue with a new sentence. Suppose you begin. Although I had prepared carefully for the presentation, because the meeting time changed and several people arrived late, you are now carrying although, because, and several unfinished ideas. Instead of fighting the structure, divide it. I had prepared carefully for the presentation, however, the meeting time changed and several people arrived late. These interruptions made it difficult to follow my original plan. The meaning becomes clearer. Another example, the person who was responsible for contacting the supplier, which was the company that, stop. Divide. One employee was responsible for contacting the supplier. The supplier had promised to deliver the materials on Monday, but the delivery never arrived. You did not fail to complete the long sentence. You succeeded in reorganizing it. A sentence is not stronger merely because it remains one sentence. Sometimes dividing it is the most advanced decision you can make. It shows that you are controlling the language instead of allowing the language to control you. Recover when the exact word disappears. A missing word often triggers a complete restart. You begin. My manager was very. You search for supportive. It does not appear. You return to the beginning. My manager was a very good person because. Now the second sentence may also become uncertain. A better recovery stays in place. My manager was very. He always helped me when I faced a difficult problem. The description completes the meaning. You can also say, my manager was the kind of person who made the team feel supported. The exact adjective was not required. Another example. The instructions were, you want, ambiguous, recover. The instructions were not clear, so different people understood them in different ways. This may communicate more effectively than the single word. When vocabulary disappears, do not assume that the whole sentence must change. Only the root around the missing word must change. You can simplify, you can describe, you can compare, you can give an example, you can explain the effect. Suppose overwhelmed disappears. You can say, I had too many responsibilities at the same time, and I did not know which one to handle first. The meaning lands. Suppose reliable disappears. You can say, he always does what he promises, so people know they can depend on him. The meaning lands. A missing word is a local problem. Treat it locally. Recover when you forget the direction. Sometimes the vocabulary is available, but you forget what the sentence was trying to prove. You begin an explanation, add several details, and suddenly realize you no longer know the ending. This can happen during long answers, stories, interviews, presentations, or emotional conversations. You may say, when I started my first job, the office was quite small and there were only 5 people and my manager. Then the main point disappears. Do not restart the entire story. Use a return phrase. The reason I mention this is, what that experience taught me was. The main point is, what I am trying to explain is. For example, When I started my first job, the office was small and the team had very limited experience. The reason I mention this is that everyone had to take responsibility beyond their official role. That environment taught me to become flexible and solve problems independently. The phrase returns the story to its purpose. Another example, there were many disagreements during the project, and people kept changing the plan. The main point is that we had no clear decision-making system. Once one person was given final responsibility, the project began moving again. You did not need to repeat the beginning. You only needed to recover the center. This is why every long answer should have a message anchor. Before speaking, identify one line that expresses the central meaning. For example, the experience taught me patience. The project failed because nobody owned the final decision. I left because I had stopped growing. I am learning English because I want greater independence. When the details begin pulling you away, return mentally to that anchor. It will show you where the sentence or explanation needs to land. Recover after an interruption. Sometimes the sentence does not break because of your English. The listener asks a question. A phone rings. Someone enters the room. You lose concentration for a moment. When the interruption ends, the original sentence is gone. Many learners restart the entire explanation because they do not know how to re-enter it. Instead, use a recovery bridge. As I was saying, returning to my point, the main thing I was explaining was, before the interruption, I was saying that. Then state the central thought, not every word you used before. For example, as I was saying, the main reason I changed jobs was the lack of growth opportunities. Now continue from the next useful point. I had remained in the same position for 3 years, and there was no clear path forward. Another example. Returning to my point, daily speaking practice matters because passive knowledge is not enough. You must repeatedly produce English before it becomes available under pressure. You do not need to recreate the exact previous sentence. You only need to restore the meaning. This skill is especially helpful in meetings and group conversations, where interruptions are normal. A confident speaker does not become silent because the original wording disappeared. They rebuild the path from the central message. Recover when the listener looks confused. Sometimes you complete the sentence, but the listener's face tells you that the meaning did not arrive. This is not always proof that your English was wrong. The explanation may have been too abstract, too long, or based on information the listener does not have. Do not repeat the same sentence more loudly. Do not repeat it with the same structure. Change the root. You can simplify. Let me say it more simply. You can give an example. For example, you can show the result. What this means in practice is, you can compare. It is similar to, suppose you say, the new system creates unnecessary duplication of responsibility. The listener looks uncertain. Recover. Let me say it more simply. 2 different employees are now doing the same task, while another important task is being ignored. The meaning becomes visible, or, I believe confidence is a result of evidence rather than positive thinking. The listener looks confused. Recover with an example. For example, telling yourself that you are confident may help briefly. But completing difficult actions repeatedly gives your mind real proof that you can handle them. You have not abandoned the idea. You have translated it into a clearer form. Communication belongs to both the speaker and the listener. If the message does not arrive, a strong speaker tries another delivery method. Recover when you realize your first statement was wrong. Sometimes you do not make a language mistake. You make a thinking mistake. You begin with an opinion, then realize it is too broad, inaccurate, or incomplete. For example, working from home is always better than working in an office. As you speak, you realize that always is too strong. You do not need to pretend the first statement was perfect. Refine it. That is too absolute. Working from home is usually better for tasks that require deep concentration, but office work may be more effective for collaboration. This recovery makes the idea more intelligent. Another example. People fail because they are lazy. You realize that the statement ignores many other causes. Recover. Let me correct that. Laziness can be one reason, but people may also struggle because they lack direction, support, opportunity, or a realistic plan. You have not shown weakness, you have shown careful thought. Strong speakers are not afraid to revise themselves. They understand that conversation is not a performance of perfect opinions, it is a process of expressing and refining meaning. Useful phrases include, "That is not exactly what I mean. I should express that more carefully. That sounds too general." A more accurate way to say it is, "Let me correct that idea." These phrases allow you to improve the message without returning to the beginning. Stop chasing the perfect second attempt. Restarting becomes dangerous because you often expect the second version to be perfect. You think, I already made one mistake, now I must say it correctly. This creates intense self-monitoring. You become slower. Your voice loses natural rhythm. Every word feels risky. Then the second attempt becomes harder than the first. A recovery should reduce pressure, not increase it. Your second expression only needs to be clearer than the first. It does not need to be perfect. Suppose you say, I felt very bad because of his behavior. You want to make the meaning more specific. You can say, more specifically, I felt disappointed because I had expected him to keep his promise. That is enough. Do not keep searching for a more advanced version such as, I experienced a profound sense of emotional betrayal. The simpler correction may be stronger. You are not trying to create the most beautiful sentence possible. You are trying to make the meaning arrive. Use calm recovery language. The tone of your recovery matters. When you correct yourself with panic, the listener feels the disruption. When you correct yourself calmly, the repair becomes part of the natural conversation. Compare. No, sorry, that is wrong. Let me start again. With, let me put that differently. The second version sounds controlled. Compare. I cannot explain it. My English is bad. With, the word is not coming to me, but what I mean is, the second version keeps the message alive. Compare. I made a mistake. With, I should correct one detail. The second version focuses on information, not self-judgment. Your language teaches your mind how to interpret the difficulty. If you call every gap a failure, your nervous system reacts as though the conversation is dangerous. If you treat the gap as a small adjustment, you remain available for the next word. Recovery is partly linguistic and partly emotional. You must learn to remain calm enough to use the English you already possess. Mistakes are not all equal. To recover intelligently, divide mistakes into 3 groups. The first group includes meaning-changing mistakes. These should usually be corrected. For example, I arrived at 6, sorry, I mean 7. The payment was accepted. Actually, it was rejected. She is my sister, I mean my cousin. The wrong information could confuse the listener. Correct it clearly. The second group includes noticeable grammar mistakes that are easy to repair without disturbing the sentence. For example, he works in finance. I have seen her yesterday. I saw her yesterday. A quick correction is possible. Make it once and continue. The third group includes small mistakes that do not damage understanding. For example, a missing article, an imperfect preposition, or a minor word order issue. These may not need immediate attention during conversation. Notice them if you can, but do not sacrifice the thought to repair every detail. This hierarchy protects your speaking flow. Meaning comes first. Major clarity comes second. Minor perfection comes later. During deliberate practice, you can focus on every mistake. You can replay recordings, study grammar, and improve accuracy. During real communication, use judgment. Your listener needs the message more than a perfect grammatical performance. Build the recovery reflex through practice. You cannot develop recovery only by reading about it. You must practice moments of imperfection. Many learners rehearse perfect sentences, but they never rehearse what to do when those sentences break. Then real conversation feels frightening because the first problem destroys the plan. Create controlled difficulty during practice. Choose a topic and begin speaking for 1 minute. Every 15 seconds, deliberately change something. Replace a word, divide a sentence, correct one detail, return to the main idea. For example, begin. I believe learning English requires consistency because, then deliberately simplify. Let me say that more clearly. English improves when you meet the language regularly instead of practicing intensely only once in a while. Continue. Many learners wait for motivation. Now refine. That sounds too general. Some learners do practice regularly, but they repeat methods that never require real speaking. Continue toward the landing. This exercise teaches your mind that revision does not mean failure. It becomes part of fluent expression. Another exercise is the No Restart Challenge. Speak for 2 minutes about a familiar topic. You are not allowed to return to the first word of any sentence. When a problem appears, you must recover from the point where you are. You may simplify. You may use another word. You may end the sentence early. You may divide it. You may use a return phrase, but you cannot erase the whole attempt. At first, this may feel difficult. you will discover how often you depend on restarting. But over time, your mind will begin searching for forward solutions instead of backward escape. That is the reflex you want. Practice repairing different problems. Create one sentence for each kind of recovery. A missing word. I found the experience very... It changed the way I understood responsibility. A wrong detail. The meeting is on Wednesday. Actually, it has been moved to Thursday. An unclear statement. Technology makes people disconnected. Let me put that more carefully. Excessive technology use can reduce the quality of face-to-face connection. A lost direction. I have mentioned several problems, but the main point is that nobody was responsible for the final decision. An overloaded sentence. Although I wanted to continue because the project was important, let me divide that. I wanted to continue. However, the pressure was affecting my health, so I eventually stepped away. An interrupted thought. As I was saying, the experience taught me to prepare for unexpected changes rather than depending on one perfect plan. Practice these movements aloud. Your mouth must become familiar with recovery language before pressure appears. Keep the listener oriented. When repairing a long explanation, remember that the listener also needs direction. You know what changed inside your mind, but they may not. Use a brief signal. For example, I mentioned the salary, but that was not the main reason I left. The real issue was the lack of growth. This tells the listener how to reinterpret the earlier detail. Or, I was describing the problem, but I should also explain the result. The delay caused us to lose an important client. The transition shows where the explanation is going next. Or, I gave too many details. The simple point is that the plan failed because responsibilities were unclear. This is direct and powerful. A recovery becomes easier to follow when you reveal its purpose. Do not silently change direction and expect the listener to understand the new path. Use one short bridge, then move forward. Recovery builds speaking courage. When you know how to recover, you become willing to attempt more meaningful sentences. Before, you may have avoided complex ideas because you feared getting trapped halfway through. You reduced every answer to something safe. Yes, I agree. It was good. I do not know how to explain. Now you understand that a sentence does not need one perfect route. You can begin with a clear destination and adjust along the way. If the word disappears, describe it. If the structure becomes heavy, divide it. If the idea becomes unclear, refine it. If you lose the direction, return to the main point. If the listener looks confused, use an example. If a small grammar error appears, decide whether it truly needs repair. This knowledge creates courage. You no longer need certainty before speaking. You need direction and recovery. That is a much more realistic form of confidence. Fluency lives after the mistake. Many learners imagine fluency as the beautiful part before anything goes wrong. They admire smooth pronunciation, fast vocabulary, and complete sentences. But the deeper evidence of fluency appears after the disruption. What happens when the speaker forgets a word? What happens when the listener interrupts? What happens when the original structure fails? What happens when the speaker realizes their first explanation was unclear? A fragile speaker collapses. A flexible speaker adjusts. This is why recovery is not separate from fluency. Recovery is fluency under pressure. It proves that your speaking ability does not depend on perfect conditions. Your English can continue through uncertainty. A practical daily recovery routine. For 10 minutes each day, practice the following sequence. Choose one question. What challenge changed you? Why do people lose motivation? What does confidence mean to you? What is one decision you are proud of? What would you change about your daily routine? Speak for 1 minute without stopping. During the answer, deliberately perform one repair. You may say, "Let me put that more clearly." Then simplify one idea. Deliberately replace one difficult word with a description. Deliberately divide one long sentence into two. Deliberately return to your central message using "the main point is." Then complete the answer with one strong landing. Listen to the recording afterward. Do not focus only on the mistakes. Ask, did I panic or remain calm? Did I repair locally or restart completely? Did the meaning remain clear? Was the new version simpler? Did the sentence eventually land? How quickly did I return to the central thought? This review teaches you to measure success differently. Success is not producing an error-free minute. Success is remaining in control when an error appears. Give yourself permission to continue. One of the greatest obstacles to recovery is the belief that you need permission to move past a mistake. You feel that the sentence cannot continue until the grammar has been repaired, the exact word has returned, or the beginning has been repeated correctly. But communication gives you permission to continue. The listener is not holding a red pen. The conversation is not waiting for a perfect performance. The message is still alive. You may continue. You are allowed to leave a small mistake behind when the meaning is clear. You are allowed to choose an easier word. You are allowed to shorten the sentence. You are allowed to change the grammar. You are allowed to say, "That is not exactly what I mean." You are allowed to think for a moment. You are allowed to land imperfectly. An imperfect landing is still a landing. An abandoned sentence delivers nothing. Stop returning to the beginning. From today, notice the moment when your mind says, "Start again." Do not obey automatically. Ask, "Can I continue from here? Can I repair only this phrase? Can I replace the missing word? Can I divide the thought? Can I state the main point directly? Can I land the sentence now?" Often, the answer will be yes. The beginning has already done its job. It brought the listener into the thought. Do not throw it away because the middle became difficult. Keep what is useful, repair what is necessary, release what is too complicated. Then carry the message forward. Your sentence does not need to return to the starting line. It needs to find the finish. The mistake is behind you. The meaning is still ahead. Do not turn around. Pause when necessary, but remain connected to the destination. Simplify without shame. Correct without panic. Rephrase without apologizing. Divide without believing you have failed. Every time you recover, you build evidence that your English can survive real conversation. Every time you continue, you weaken the old habit of freezing. Every time you land after a mistake, your speaking becomes more dependable. Your fluency will not be defined by the number of mistakes you avoid. It will be defined by the number of thoughts you refuse to abandon. So when the sentence bends, do not break with it. When one word disappears, do not let the whole message disappear. When the structure becomes unstable, do not destroy everything you have already built. Recover from where you are, protect the meaning, keep moving, and prove to yourself that one imperfect moment no longer has the power to stop your entire English sentence. Chapter 7. Develop the reflex to carry every thought home. At the beginning of this journey, finishing an English sentence may have felt like a difficult mental task. You had to remember the main idea, search for vocabulary, control the grammar, avoid mistakes, and somehow keep moving toward an ending. Every sentence demanded attention. Every pause felt dangerous. Every missing word threatened to erase the thought. But the final goal of the English sentence landing is not to make you consciously manage these steps forever. The goal is to turn them into a reflex. A reflex is an action that becomes available without long preparation. You do not need to study every movement before performing it. Your mind recognizes the situation, your speaking system responds, and the thought continues. This is what happens when experienced speakers communicate. They are not consciously naming every grammar rule while speaking. They are not carefully planning every word from beginning to end. They have repeated complete speaking patterns so many times that direction has become natural. They feel when a sentence needs a reason. They sense when an explanation has become too heavy. They recognize when one thought should end and another should begin. They notice when the listener needs an example. They know how to replace a missing word without losing the message. Most importantly, they feel when the sentence has landed. This internal feeling is what you must develop. You are not only learning techniques, you are building a new speaking instinct. The central lesson of this chapter is, do not practice only producing English, practice completing English. Many learners speak aloud every day, but they repeat the same unfinished habits. They start answers, become uncertain, move to easier thoughts, use memorized phrases, or stop whenever the language becomes difficult. They are practicing sound, but not completion. Every repetition strengthens something. If you repeatedly abandon sentences, your mind learns that difficulty means escape. If you repeatedly restart after small mistakes, your mind learns that imperfect language cannot continue. If you repeatedly shorten meaningful ideas because they feel risky, your mind learns to hide behind safe English. But when you repeatedly stay with the thought until it reaches a clear ending, your mind learns something different. I know how to carry this. That is how the sentence landing reflex begins. Fluency is a chain of completed thoughts. Many learners imagine fluency as one continuous river of words. They believe a fluent speaker never stops, pauses, or searches. They try to speak for several minutes without silence because they think continuous sound proves ability. But natural fluency is not an endless sentence. It is a chain of completed thoughts. One idea lands, the next idea begins. A reason lands, an example follows, a contrast appears. A conclusion closes the message. The speech feels continuous because the thoughts connect logically, not because the speaker refuses to stop. Consider this response. I used to believe that fluency meant speaking quickly. That belief made me rush, and rushing caused me to lose control of my sentences. Later, I realized that clear speakers do not always speak fast. They know how to organize meaning while they speak. Once I slowed down and focused on completion, my English began sounding more confident. This answer flows naturally, but it contains several separate landings. The first sentence introduces an old belief. The second reveals its effect. The third introduces a new realization. The fourth explains that realization. The fifth shows the result. Each sentence supports the larger message, but none of them is forced to carry the whole explanation. This is how long speaking becomes possible. You do not hold 5 minutes of English inside your mind. You complete one thought, then use its ending as the beginning of the next. Imagine stepping across a river using stones. You do not jump from the first side directly to the opposite bank. You land on one stable stone, regain balance, and move to the next. Complete sentences are those stones. Every landing gives your mind a stable place from which to continue. An unfinished sentence leaves you suspended in the air. Build completion before complexity. You may feel ready to produce longer, more advanced sentences. That is a good ambition, but complexity must grow from control. Do not increase sentence length faster than your ability to finish. A musician does not begin by performing the most difficult piece at full speed. They repeat smaller patterns until the hands can perform them naturally. Then those patterns are connected into something larger. Your speaking needs the same development. Begin with short, complete messages. I prefer studying in the morning. My mind feels clearer after enough sleep. I become nervous when I prepare too many words. The conversation was difficult, but I continued. These sentences may feel simple, but they build the most important habit, arrival. Then add one supporting movement. I prefer studying in the morning because my mind feels clearer. I become nervous when I prepare too many words because I try to remember them perfectly. The conversation was difficult, but I continued until I expressed the main idea. Now add another controlled stage. I prefer studying in the morning because my mind feels clearer, and this helps me understand difficult material more quickly. The sentence becomes longer, but the path remains visible. This is intelligent expansion. You do not begin with a complicated sentence and hope it survives. You begin with a complete core and add only what you can control. The core sentence is your safety. Suppose you want to say, daily speaking practice has made me more confident because I no longer treat every mistake as an emergency, and this allows me to stay focused on communication. The core is, daily speaking practice has made me more confident. That thought can stand alone. The first expansion gives the reason. I no longer treat every mistake as an emergency. The second gives the result. This allows me to stay focused on communication. Because every part is clear, the longer sentence remains manageable. Whenever you are preparing to express a complex idea, find its simplest complete version first. That version becomes the backbone. If the longer structure becomes unstable, return to the backbone and land there. The sentence core exercise. Choose one idea and express it in 3 stages. Stage 1 is the core. Stage 2 adds support. Stage 3 adds impact. For example, core. I stopped avoiding English conversations. Support. I realized that avoidance was protecting my fear instead of improving my speaking. Impact. Once I began entering conversations regularly, mistakes stopped feeling like proof that I was incapable. Now connect the stages. I stopped avoiding English conversations because I realized that avoidance was protecting my fear instead of improving my speaking. Once I began entering conversations regularly, mistakes stopped feeling like proof that I was incapable. The answer is strong because each thought has a stable center. Try another. Core. I want to improve my vocabulary. Support. I often understand the right word when reading but cannot retrieve it while speaking. Impact. My goal is to make the words available during real conversation, not only recognizable on a page. Connected response. I want to improve my vocabulary because I often recognize the right words while reading but cannot retrieve them during conversation. My goal is to make those words available when I need to express a real thought, not only when I see them on a page. This practice develops the reflex to build outward from completion. Learn the feeling of an unfinished sentence. To carry every thought home, you must become sensitive to the feeling of incompletion. An unfinished sentence creates tension. The listener feels that more is required. You should begin feeling it too. When you say, "The main reason I changed my routine was," your mind should sense that the thought remains open. When you say, "Although the course was useful," you should feel that a contrast must arrive. When you say, "One lesson the experience taught me was," you should feel that the lesson must be delivered. When you develop this sensitivity, you stop leaving thoughts unfinished without noticing. You begin automatically searching for the required landing. The main reason I changed my routine was that I had no energy left in the evening. Although the course was useful, it required more time than I could give consistently. One lesson the experience taught me was that confidence without preparation disappears under pressure. The structure closes. This feeling is similar to hearing an unfinished piece of music. When the final note does not arrive, your mind knows that something is missing. With enough exposure to complete English patterns, your speaking system develops the same expectation. You begin hearing the shape of completion. This is why listening practice should not focus only on vocabulary and pronunciation. Listen to how speakers finish ideas. Notice where their voices settle. Notice how they close reasons. Notice how they move from examples to conclusions. Notice how they divide complicated thoughts into smaller units. You are training your ear to recognize landing patterns that your mouth can later reproduce. Use complete speaking patterns. One powerful way to develop automatic completion is to practice full thought patterns rather than isolated words. For example, I believe because because. The main reason is that At first but eventually The experience taught me that The biggest problem is and the result is I used to but now I because These are not scripts you must repeat forever. They are speaking frames that teach your mind how ideas move toward completion. Consider, I believe daily listening is essential because it teaches your mind how natural English sounds. The structure begins with an opinion and promises a reason. Both parts arrive. At first I was afraid to speak, but eventually I realized that silence was not helping me improve. The structure creates change over time. Both sides land. I used to prepare every sentence in my head, but now I focus on one message and allow the words to form naturally. The structure creates a contrast between the past and present. The listener can follow it easily. Practice these patterns with many topics. Do not memorize one perfect sentence. Keep the structure but change the content. For example, I believe exercise is important because it improves both physical energy and mental focus. I believe reading is valuable because it introduces us to ideas we may never experience personally. I believe speaking practice is necessary because knowledge remains passive until we use it. The pattern becomes familiar. Your mind no longer needs to invent the entire shape while speaking. It can focus more attention on meaning. This is how grammatical control becomes automatic, not through memorizing rules alone, but through repeatedly completing meaningful structures. Move from one landing to the next. Long answers become easier when the ending of one sentence creates the question for the next. Suppose you say, I struggled with English conversations because I was trying to speak perfectly. The listener may naturally wonder, what happened because of that? Your next sentence answers, that pressure made me monitor every word, so my responses became slow and unnatural. Now another question appears. What changed? I began improving when I stopped treating mistakes as emergencies. Another, how did you do that? I practiced completing simple thoughts without restarting, even when the grammar was imperfect. Another, what was the result? Over time, I became more willing to speak because I trusted my ability to recover. The answer grows naturally through connected landings. You are not searching randomly for more things to say. Each completed thought opens one logical door. This is a powerful method for speaking longer. After landing one sentence, ask one of these questions. Why? How? What happened next? What was the result? Can I give an example? What did I learn? What changed afterward? Choose one question and let it guide the next sentence. Suppose the topic is, why is consistency important? First landing. Consistency is important because progress usually comes from repeated action rather than rare moments of motivation. Ask, why? Motivation changes from day to day, but a routine keeps the action alive when your feelings become weak. Ask, what is the result? This repetition slowly turns difficult behavior into something familiar. Ask, can I give an example? A learner who speaks English for 15 minutes every day will usually develop stronger reflexes than someone who studies for 5 hours once a month. Ask, what is the lesson? The real power of consistency is that it makes progress dependable. You have created a complete explanation without carrying the whole answer at once. One landing led to the next. Develop the ability to hold one meaning. One reason sentences collapse is that the mind changes the message too quickly. You begin with an opinion, then another opinion appears. You try to include both, then an exception enters, then a memory competes for attention. To develop a sentence landing reflex, practice holding one meaning for a little longer. Choose one statement. Learning English has increased my independence. Now remain loyal to that message. Explain why. Give an example. Describe the result. Reach a conclusion. Do not change the subject simply because another related idea appears. You might say, learning English has increased my independence because I no longer need help with every message, application, or conversation. I can search for information, communicate with people internationally, and make certain decisions by myself. The language has not only given me a skill, it has given me greater control over my own life. Every sentence protects the same central meaning. This is focused speaking. Now choose. Fear of mistakes was slowing my progress. Stay with it. Fear of mistakes was slowing my progress because I avoided situations where my English would be tested. I spent more time preparing than communicating, so my knowledge remained passive. Once I accepted that mistakes were part of practice, I began speaking more often and improving more quickly. The speaker does not wander. The thought deepens. This ability is especially important when discussing serious ideas. Depth comes from staying with one meaning long enough to explore it. Wandering creates more topics. Focus creates more understanding. Build your internal sentence compass. A compass does not show every step of the journey. It shows the direction. Your sentence also needs an internal compass. Before speaking, hold one short destination in mind. For example, I want them to understand that the experience made me stronger. I want them to understand that the delay was not my fault. I want them to understand that I disagree respectfully. I want them to understand that this opportunity matters to me. This meaning should remain visible throughout the sentence. Your wording may change, but the compass does not. Suppose you are explaining a delay at work. Your internal destination is, the delay happened because the supplier failed to deliver the materials. You may begin, we expected to complete production on Monday, but the materials, the word shipment disappears. You continue, the materials we needed did not arrive on time. You add, as a result, production had to stop for 2 days. You land, the delay was caused by the supplier's late delivery, not by a problem inside our team. The wording changed, but the central direction remained stable. Without the compass, you might begin discussing emails, schedules, meetings, and people without clearly explaining the cause. The internal compass protects the message from unnecessary detail. Practice under gentle pressure. A skill does not become a reflex only in comfortable conditions. You must gradually practice while time, attention, or emotional pressure is present. This does not mean creating extreme stress. It means making practice slightly more realistic. Begin by answering a question with unlimited preparation. Then answer after only 10 seconds of planning. Then answer immediately. Next, record yourself. Then speak while looking at your reflection. Then practice with another person. Then answer unexpected questions. At each stage, keep the same priority. Complete the thought. Do not aim for perfect grammar. Do not aim for advanced vocabulary. Do not aim for maximum speed. Aim for a clear landing. For example, ask yourself, what is one belief you have changed? Give yourself 10 seconds. Choose the landing. I learned that confidence grows after action, not before it. Now speak. I used to believe that I needed confidence before attempting something difficult, but waiting to feel ready kept me inactive. Over time, I learned that action creates the evidence from which confidence grows. The answer lands. Now answer an unexpected question. What makes someone trustworthy? Choose one quick destination. A trustworthy person behaves consistently. Speak. A trustworthy person behaves consistently. Their words and actions match, and they keep their promises even when doing so becomes inconvenient. Trust grows when people know what they can expect from you. You did not need a memorized response. You needed a clear destination and a familiar path. Use timed completion practice. Set a timer for 30 seconds. Choose one question and give a complete answer before the time ends. The goal is not to fill every second. The goal is to land before the timer stops. For example, what is one habit that improved your life? You might answer, one habit that improved my life was preparing the next day before going to sleep. I write down the most important task and remove small decisions from the morning. This helps me begin the day with direction instead of confusion. The answer finishes in less than 30 seconds. Now increase the time to 60 seconds. Do not stretch one sentence. Add new completed thoughts. One habit that improved my life was preparing the next day before going to sleep. I write down the most important task and remove small decisions from the morning. This helps me begin the day with direction instead of confusion. Before developing this habit, I often spent the first hour reacting to whatever felt urgent. Planning at night has taught me that a calm morning usually begins with a clear evening. Each idea lands. Then practice 90 seconds. Continue through connected sentences rather than one overloaded answer. Timed practice teaches your mind to respect endings. You begin recognizing how much meaning can fit comfortably inside a limited space. Practice sentence shortening. A strong speaker must know how to shorten a sentence without abandoning the message. Begin with a longer idea. I decided not to attend the event because I had been working for several days without enough rest, and I knew that forcing myself to go would leave me even more exhausted. Now create a shorter landing. I did not attend because I needed rest. The shorter version preserves the essential meaning. Try another. I found the course difficult because the instructor introduced too many new ideas without giving us enough time to practice them. Shorter. The course moved too quickly for me to practice properly. Another. I stopped arguing because I realized that the other person was not listening and only wanted to prove that they were right. Shorter. I stopped arguing because the conversation was no longer productive. This exercise gives you an emergency landing. During real conversation, a complex sentence may become unstable. You need the ability to reduce it quickly and still arrive. Knowing the shortest, truthful version of your thought creates safety. Practice sentence expansion. After building shortening ability, practice controlled expansion. Begin with, I enjoyed the trip. Add a reason. I enjoyed the trip because the peaceful environment helped me relax. Add a result. I enjoyed the trip because the peaceful environment helped me relax, and I returned home with much more energy. Then divide it naturally. I enjoyed the trip because the peaceful environment helped me relax. After several stressful weeks, the time away gave me enough space to think clearly. I returned home with more energy and a better understanding of what needed to change in my routine. Expansion should add value, not merely words. Each new sentence must deepen, explain, or complete something. Do not expand by repeating the same message. I enjoyed it because it was enjoyable and made me feel good. That adds little. A meaningful expansion reveals why the experience mattered. Practice the no abandonment rule. For 1 week, create a simple rule. Every sentence you begin during practice must receive an ending. The ending may be imperfect. The sentence may become shorter. You may replace a word. You may divide the structure. But you may not simply stop and say, I do not know. If the thought becomes difficult, use a rescue phrase. The simple point is, what I am trying to say is. In other words, the main reason is, then land. Suppose you begin. People often lose motivation because you become uncertain. Do not abandon it. Say, the simple point is that they expect progress to happen faster than it usually does. The sentence lands. Suppose you begin. My hometown is special because. The exact words do not come. Say, what I am trying to say is that the place carries many of my strongest childhood memories. Land. Suppose you begin. I disagree with the decision because. You cannot organize the argument. Say, the main reason is that it creates more work without solving the original problem. Land. This rule trains your mind to search for completion instead of escape. Use real-life conversation drills. Practice common situations where unfinished sentences often appear. Introducing yourself. Do not only memorize your name and occupation. Practice completing thoughts about who you are. I work in digital content because I enjoy turning ideas into messages people can understand. I began learning English because I wanted to communicate with a wider audience. My current goal is to speak with enough confidence that I no longer shorten my personality in English. Giving an opinion. Choose one position. I believe online learning is valuable because it gives people access to education regardless of location. Then add balance. However, it requires greater self-discipline because nobody is physically present to keep the learner focused. Land. For independent learners, it can be extremely effective, but only when they follow a consistent routine. Explaining a problem. State the result first. The project is behind schedule. Give the cause. Several important decisions were delayed because responsibilities were unclear. Give the response. We have now assigned one person to approve final changes. Land. This should prevent the same problem from continuing next week. Telling a story. Identify the central change. I entered the interview feeling prepared, but one unexpected question made my mind go blank. Explain what happened. I paused, simplified my answer, and focused on the one point I wanted the interviewer to understand. Land. The experience taught me that recovery matters more than giving a perfect first response. Expressing emotion. Name the emotional center. I felt disappointed because I had trusted that the promise would be kept. Add the deeper meaning. The situation was painful not only because of what happened, but because it changed the way I saw that relationship. Land. I eventually understood that disappointment often reveals where our expectations were stronger than reality. Practice these situations until the movement feels familiar. Make completion part of your daily English. You do not need a special class to build this reflex. Use ordinary moments. Describe what you are doing. I am preparing lunch because I want to finish eating before the meeting begins. Explain a decision. I am leaving early because traffic becomes much heavier after 5. Express an opinion. I prefer this book because the examples are practical and easy to remember. Reflect on your day. The most difficult part of today was maintaining focus when several tasks became urgent at the same time. State a lesson. I learned that delaying one uncomfortable conversation can create several larger problems later. These small sentences train direction. You are teaching your mouth to begin with purpose and end with meaning. Do not underestimate daily repetition. 100 small landings build more dependable speaking control than one long practice session filled with unfinished answers. Review meaning, not only mistakes. When you listen to a recording of yourself, it is natural to notice grammar errors, pronunciation problems, and missing vocabulary. These things matter, but they should not be the only focus. Ask, did I complete the central thought? Was the destination clear? Did I add too many ideas before landing? Did I recover when a word disappeared? Did the sentence end at the right moment? Could I divide any overloaded sentence? Did every example support the main point? Did my final sentence reveal why the idea mattered? This type of review develops communication skill, not merely language accuracy. You may discover that a grammatically imperfect answer was still clear and powerful. You may also discover that a grammatically correct answer was difficult to follow because it had no direction. Both lessons are valuable. Accuracy helps your English become cleaner. Completion helps your English become usable. You need both, but completion must not wait until accuracy becomes perfect. Build trust in simple English. The reflex will not become natural while you continue rejecting simple language. When pressure appears, your mind needs dependable words and structures. If you believe every sentence must sound advanced, you will keep searching, correcting, and expanding until the thought breaks. Trust sentences such as, the main problem is, I disagree because, the experience taught me. What happened next was, the reason this matters is. The simplest way to explain it is. These structures are not weak, they are clear. You can use them to carry deep thoughts. For example, the main problem is not that learners know too little English, it is that they cannot access what they know while speaking. The experience taught me that remaining silent can protect you from one uncomfortable moment while costing you a valuable opportunity. The reason this matters is that unfinished sentences slowly teach learners to distrust their own voices. Simple structure can carry complex meaning. The strength comes from the thought, not from grammatical decoration. Let your voice show the landing. Sentence completion is not only grammatical, your voice also tells the listener that the thought has arrived. When a sentence remains open, the voice often stays suspended. The speaker sounds as though more is coming. When the sentence lands, the voice settles naturally. Practice reading complete thoughts aloud. I decided to continue because the goal still mattered to me. Allow your voice to settle on me. The situation was difficult, but it taught me how to remain calm under pressure. Settle on pressure. My English began improving when I stopped trying to sound perfect and started trying to communicate clearly. Settle on clearly. Do not exaggerate the movement. Simply allow the ending to sound finished, then pause. This strengthens both your speaking rhythm and the listener's understanding. The pause after the sentence becomes a signal. That thought is complete. Now the next one can begin. Your final speaking system. You now possess a complete system for carrying English thoughts from beginning to end. First, choose the landing. Know what you want the listener to understand. Second, build a simple path. Give the sentence one main idea, the support it needs, and a clear ending. Third, protect the thought. When a word disappears, simplify, describe, compare, or explain. Fourth, control expansion. Complete the first idea before adding another reason, example, or contrast. Fifth, recover without restarting. Repair the damaged section, divide the structure, or return directly to the main point. Finally, repeat these movements until they become a reflex. At first, you may think through each step. Later, you will only feel the direction. You will begin a sentence and sense its destination. You will notice overload before the structure collapses. You will replace missing words without panic. You will allow one thought to finish before opening the next. You will recover calmly when the path changes, and you will recognize the moment when the message has arrived. That is sentence control. The final challenge. Choose one meaningful question. What has learning English taught you about yourself? Before speaking, choose one landing. Perhaps, it has taught me that courage grows through use. Now build the answer. Learning English has taught me that courage grows through use. I used to wait until I felt confident before entering conversations, but confidence never arrived while I remained silent. Every time I spoke despite uncertainty, the fear became slightly weaker. I now understand that speaking courage is not something I must find before the conversation. It is something I build by staying inside the conversation until my thought reaches the end. The answer is not powerful because every word is advanced. It is powerful because every sentence arrives. Now choose another. What kind of English speaker do you want to become? Landing. I want to become someone who can express complete thoughts without hiding. Answer. I want to become an English speaker who can express complete thoughts without hiding behind short, safe answers. I do not need to sound perfect or impress everyone with difficult vocabulary. I want enough control to explain what I believe, describe what I have experienced, and say what truly matters to me. My goal is not to remove every pause. My goal is to trust that I can carry the message through the pause and still bring it home. This is the speaker you are building. Carry the thought home. A sentence begins as something invisible. It exists inside you as meaning, emotion, memory, opinion, or intention. The listener cannot see it. They cannot enter your mind and complete it for you. Your words must carry it across the distance between two people. That is the real purpose of speaking. Not displaying grammar, not proving vocabulary, not hiding mistakes, delivering meaning. The journey may not always be smooth. A word may disappear, the grammar may change, a new detail may enter, the listener may interrupt, your confidence may shake. But none of these moments must become the end. Hold the destination, protect the central thought, choose the next available road, complete what matters. The sentence does not need to arrive exactly as you first imagined it. It only needs to arrive clearly enough to be received. From today, do not measure your English only by how quickly you speak. Measure it by how many real thoughts you complete. Do not measure yourself only by the words you remember. Measure yourself by the meanings you can deliver when a word is missing. Do not measure fluency by the absence of struggle. Measure it by your ability to continue through struggle. You already know how to begin. Now develop the deeper power to remain with the sentence. Stay when the middle becomes difficult. Simplify when the structure becomes heavy. Recover when the path becomes uncertain. Pause without surrendering. Finish without demanding perfection. Then allow the thought to rest inside the listener's mind. That is where every sentence was trying to go. That is the landing. And when completion becomes your reflex, your English will no longer be a collection of strong beginnings and disappearing endings. It will become a dependable voice, one that can take a thought from the hidden world inside you and carry it calmly and clearly all the way home. You were never someone who had nothing to say. Your real struggle was that your thoughts often began with strength but disappeared before they reached the listener. You knew the meaning inside your mind, yet somewhere between the first word and the final point, the sentence became too heavy. One word vanished, the structure broke, and the thought was left unfinished. But now you understand something powerful. A sentence does not need perfection to survive. It needs direction. It needs one clear message, a simple path, and the courage to keep moving when the middle becomes uncertain. You have learned how to choose the landing before you speak. You have learned how to protect the main thought when vocabulary disappears, how to stop adding new ideas before the first one is complete, and how to recover without destroying everything you have already said. Most importantly, you have learned that fluency is not the ability to avoid every mistake. Fluency is the ability to continue after the mistake. From this moment, do not abandon a meaningful thought because one word refuses to come.